Welcome to the Weekend Must Watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through all the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. I'm your co-host Arturo Sprita, and joining me live is Zachary Chavez.
What's going on, buddy? I'm glad to talk movies with you another week here on Intercut.
We've got a bunch of stuff in store. I know you're still at it for New York. We got supers for everything.
Exhausting.
Bunch of sequels, all that good stuff coming out. But this week in movies, we have The Joker, the newest film from Todd Phillips that I know is neither a comic book film for people, neither a good sequel, and maybe neither a good movie. We've also got Platform 2, because everyone was clamoring for that. We got the Salem Lot remake people wanted, VHS, House of Spoils, so much horror stuff. As we're in October, Zach, I don't know if you've gotten into the pumpkin spirit. For me, it's been baseball season. I'm torn between watching movies, watching baseball, all that good stuff. But we're getting to the point now where it's my favorite. It's my favorite season of the month. My favorite season of the year. I'm all in. The movies are great. I just came back from an excellent film from Chicago as we start the Chicago International Film Festival as well. Those popes, bro. Those Catholic cardinals are crazy.
Yeah, man.
Conclave. So good.
Yeah, I don't know whether we should be calling it House of Papal Cards or Game of Papal Thrones or House of Cardinals, but like it certainly got that whole like backroom politics thing going on set against the next pope, the search for the next pope. It's a pretty cool thriller.
You look at some of the like big moments, the explosive moments in the movie. I was like, yo, this is a little bit of Joker. This is Joker full of Dios. Like this thing has layers upon layers. Some of the best performances of the year. Zach covered it coming out of TIFF. I think it's going to be a massive contender. And I already think it's better than the guy's last movie because it comes from the dude who ended up doing
too.
What was it? Because his name was
All Quiet on the Western Front.
Again, solid film. That man ended up doing a lot of good stuff, but this is him firing on all cylinders, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a real like thrilling piece of entertainment. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's also just like littered with these awesome actors really giving great performances. One of my favorite Ralph Fiennes performances in the last couple of years is the guy just sort of with the burden of everybody's secrets on his shoulders. I think I'm borrowing a point from Amanda, but it was a very like Ned Stark-esque kind of role where he's almost the hand to the king and has to deal with keeping peace between these various factions. Which of the supporting players stood out to you the most, though? Let's go. Yeah.
The man's menacing. He opens his mouth, you know he's lying. Like he plays a bad guy so well, and he's got several movies at Chicago, so I'm really excited because the other one is him. I'm blanking on the name of the movie. I think it's Jenny something.
The Rule of Jenny Penny or something.
Okay, so you've heard about it, right? Bro, the premise
was at TIFF.
Was it? Dude, it's about him at a nursing home taunting people with his creepy dolls. And I forget who the other actor is, but there's like one actor who's going to have to stop.
Rush.
We're eating. If you have not checked the Chicago, bro, if you have not checked the Chicago Film Festival, definitely go look up all the movies. It's their 60th year. They've got a really good slate coming up. We're starting to get access to a bunch of the screenings this week for press. Zach's in the thick of New York. How's the recent screenings been for the past week?
I mean, it's been awesome. I'm exhausted. I'm looking forward to finally handing the baton off to you as my film festival journey ends and yours starts because my legs are very tired. But, I've seen basically every movie that I was really anticipating this year, whether it's, Brutalist a couple weeks ago, Anora the week before that, Nickel Boys. The last week I got
Nickel Boys this Thursday. That was a surprise screening. Oh, when that came in the inbox?
That's some good news you love to hear. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you got, what you think about that movie, because that still is probably the standout of my New York Film Festival experience. But this week I got new movies from Luca Guadagnino, new movies from Pedro Almodovar, new movies from David Cronenberg, and Alex Ross Perry. So a lot of good stuff. A lot of stuff I'm looking forward to talking about.
You're gonna get into all of them. What was the biggest surprise so far from the new stuff?
The biggest surprise. I mean, if it's not Nickel Boys in terms of just how great that film was, I think On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, it's certainly a film that intrigued
Okay.
me, but I was not prepared for how powerful I thought that movie was going to be.
Fire. Okay. I know that one played at TIFF. I believe it may be playing at Chicago as well. It's got a very interesting poster artwork thing going on as well. You're gonna be bringing all this up. We're gonna have a whole New York section. We have a bunch of good movies to talk about, a bunch of good movies to anticipate, which is why, of course, we need to start with the one and only Joker. Do you know how to say it?
All.
You and I are not
Folie
French here, so
I don't know. I saw somebody saying that everybody is mispronouncing it, but everybody I've heard pronounce it as like Folie à Deux. Maybe it's just a little bit like it's not do like doo doo. It's like de.
I saw a compilation of a bunch of news anchors.
Yes, I'm speaking as somebody who's like knowledge of the French language is watching Portrait of a Lady on Fire a few times. Like I'm not an expert by any means.
So we'll call it Joker 2. And as a Joker 2 film, it's the whole gang getting back together, but this time as a musical, as a lot of people had heard coming into it. And then it turns out a lot of people were still surprised that it was a musical, as it covers what is supposed to be the aftermath of the first Joker film, which came out in 2019. Feels like an era ago, to be honest with you.
Everything pre-COVID feels like a different lifetime.
Right? But it's kind of crazy because we also have another movie with the platform that also came out in 2019 and now is getting a sequel. Technically for TIFF is when it came out. So it's like everything from that bygone era is now getting a follow-up. Zach, I ask you, Joker, Folie, however you want to pronounce it, 2. What are your thoughts?
I thought this one was exhausting. I had absolutely no patience for it, and at plus 2 hours, that was a really tall task. I thought this was a courtroom drama that lacked any bit of suspense. I thought it was a musical that was kind of too afraid to commit to the idea of being a musical, and I just think this thing got worse the further it went along. To me, this might even be the worst blockbuster release of the year. I might rather sit through Borderlands again than watch Folie à Deux. I'm serious, man. I'm serious. I thought this one was a disaster, a boring disaster, the worst kind of disaster.
You would not sit through Borderlands.
I mean, at least that movie's got Cate Blanchett in a silly wig. I don't know.
What's her name? Name a character from Borderlands, bro.
Who cares? I don't. I know who some of the names are in this, and they're not surprising me. This movie like starts sort of like, hey, remember what happened in the first Joker movie, and it stays there for over 2 hours. Nothing happens. What happens in this movie?
How does this stuff not happen in this movie? The ending is controversial because of what happens in the movie.
The last 20 minutes, some stuff happens, but by then, like, who cares anymore?
Look, I'm at it from the perspective that Todd Phillips set himself up. You weren't the biggest fan of the first Joker either, I don't think.
No, but I saw some merits in it. Like, there's some scenes that are pretty good. Some interesting ideas, although most of them are borrowed from Scorsese movies.
Stolen. I'm with you on that. That man, that is full theft right there. Going back to the first one, you hear him always get that critique in interviews, and he goes, no, we weren't just stealing from one, we were stealing from several. I was stealing from the 70s. I was stealing from the 70s, not just one. Then they sit him in front of Martin Scorsese, and what does the man say? Oh yes, no, I loved your movie. It was definitely an inspiration. He stole from that stuff easily through and through. I thought it was a good remix, a good cover, a good greatest hits, if you will, in terms of what he was trying to do with that first one. I know that a big controversy from it was the fact that he puts you in the place of the Joker wanting to commit the acts that he commits in the movie, especially that Murray scene, because that's one of the main reasons he's on trial in this movie is because of the, what was it, 5, 6?
Murder of Robert De Niro's talk show host character in the last movie.
And I feel this is him apologizing or trying to set the record straight, something that we're going to see with a lot of sequels. Platform 2 is also a movie where he's talking about one of the characters in there had a art piece that killed a kid, and they feel really bad about it. Dude Messiah that we're getting is going to remind people, hey, yo, yeah, that Paul guy, he ain't really that good. This almost feels like a disclaimer for the amount of money that man made in the first one. That first movie
Mhm.
made $1 billion, and they said Todd Phillips took home 100 whopping mil. So I don't even see this one as a cash grab because the man already grabbed the cash, and two, it also ends
Yeah,
in a way where it's like he's not looking to continue on. So like
definitely. He sees himself as Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight setting fire to that pile of money. Like he's
fair.
definitely kind of like flipping off the studio and the audience and pretty much anybody who has any interest in this sequel in the first place. And like I can say that that's daring, and it's certainly like a big choice to make with your hotly anticipated sequel, but it doesn't mean I have to find it particularly interesting or fun to watch.
What would you have done differently? Because you were saying that the musical element was pretty underwhelming. I like the aspect of the first movie, kind of having him sing, always being on that staircase when he has his big transformation, which they even bring it back in this movie. They cut to like some
Mhm.
shots from the first movie, and you're like, you guys just really liked how you shot that one in the first one. That transformation in the bathroom scene, you see that he's always had this like musical side to him, and all the musical numbers that are in here, they're technically, if I'm not mistaken, all established music. Like it's a what do you call those musicals where it's all
It's a jukebox musical, which
jukebox?
is the term for musicals that use previously written music. And this one is particularly pulling from a lot of like pop standards, jazz pop standards
Yeah.
from like the 50s and 60s. You know, there's Frank Sinatra in there, there's Stevie Wonder in there, although that's later than 60s. Um, just speaking to the song selection, I found that particularly to be very boring and very uninspired. Like there's not going to be a lot of songs in here that you've never heard before, and not a lot of songs in here that I think speak like nuances to the experience of Arthur Fleck, the Joker character. You know, 3 out of the first 4 songs are basically I feel different because now I'm in love, and it just sort of doesn't do much to really progress the story. It you know, it feels for there's not a lot happening, but there's even less going on during the musical numbers. It really grinds the whole thing to a halt. And I also felt like the performances themselves were really grating. Like Todd Phillips
Really?
directs Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix to do this kind of like talk singing weak voiced thing that I do think
Yeah.
kind of fits the characters, but it makes the songs really like annoying to listen to. These are both people who have performed songs beautifully in movies before, whether it's Walk the Line or A Star Is Born, but I just think they're intentionally handicapping themselves in the performances here. I found them to be increasingly less creative as the film went along. So many of them are just explained away as dream sequences, which is like to me the coward's way to do a musical. Like if you're going to do a musical, do a musical. This guy's already supposed to be teetering between, you know, reality and his own fantasies anyway. Like just fully indulge in them. I don't
But
know,
isn't
man.
that in like La La Land also kind of like not like the opening thing for La La Land? Is they're in the highway and then all of a sudden it just goes back to being in the highway?
No, but that's not a dream sequence. That's sort of like it's interrupting the flow of their life, but it's not like none of the characters all exist in a world where they're prone to spontaneously break out into song, whereas this is a world where it's just all happening in Arthur's head, which is
Yeah.
to me less interesting form of doing that kind of musical.
Uh, I think that a lot of the lyrics do kind of go with what he's going through, especially towards the end. You've
Sure,
got one of
because
the songs. Go first.
he's got lyrics that say clown and Joker in them.
Well, no, it's about I have to play a specific role, and I am chosen to be the Joker. I'm supposed to be the clown. We all have to play whatever the role is supposed to be, which ends up kind of being the through line in the movie, where no matter the people who are still trying to help him in the prison that he's in, you have Catherine Keener who comes in trying to like pretend to be his lawyer, but in reality, like when you pay attention to what's happening with her, all she wants to do is get back at the prison. So she's willing to put someone who she knows shouldn't even be out there just so that she can have something against the guards and who she's actually building a case against. There's the interview bit, which I thought that part was pretty funny when he breaks out into dance. Or what's his name? Who's
With
interviewing him in
Steve
that part?
Coogan.
Yeah, Steve Coogan comes in. They're having this like back and forth, and he's like mimicking him in the way he talks. Then he breaks like into a song, which I believe is supposed to be broadcast. And Steve Coogan's just looking at him like, "Bro, what is up with this guy?" I thought there were several elements where the music, if you're not a musical fan, I don't think this is going to be up your alley. It is. You're not wrong at all. Them doing the worst possible singing, because I think that's what they wanted the characters to be. It's these two
Mhm,
psychos who are madly in love together. It's what the title's supposed to be about, how they share this madness. But I also think it's more so his madness with himself. I heard Joaquin talking
mhm,
about that it's really him coming to terms with himself, which I think is a big part of the movie, especially towards the end. Again, I don't think it's a good Joker movie. I think
mm.
Todd Phillips wanted to play with IP and cash in. We all know that. And now he's
Yeah,
paying that price. Like, bro, you
yeah.
cannot piss off comic book fans and not give them the Joker they want.
Yeah, and in many ways, this is, as you mentioned, almost like an apology film of sorts, or a fuck you film of sorts from Todd Phillips, kind of being like, no, if you are
Kinda.
admiring the Joker, you're wrong.
Yeah.
This is not a character that I think you guys should admire. I just
You think it got to
think
him?
that yeah, which is, kind of crazy when, as you mentioned, the film still made $1 billion and got nominated for, what was it, like
Yeah.
11 Oscars? Like,
Ridiculous
this
amount,
is,
actually. Yeah.
by pretty much any metric, a gigantic success, unless you are like taking seriously the opinions of critics and incels.
Yeah. But I think it was more so, like I'm saying, with a couple of the other movies that we have coming up, Dune Messiah being a really big one. I know Jason
Mhm,
brought that up in his video as well. Like, he has this thing of like, he's trolling in reverse because he knows that some people didn't get the message. The idea
mhm,
that you shouldn't want this person to become the clown prince of crime. But at the
right.
same time, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot because people want to see the Joker go crazy to fight a Batman, right? So it's like,
Mhm,
I do think it's an interesting character study. A bad Joker movie. I did think it was a decent enough movie for the psyche of a guy who's realizing, like, yo, if I'm not this persona that people want me to be, even when I fall in love and think I can come out of it, even when I see that the one person I really like, the best scene's got to be with Puddles. You like that scene at least?
to be honest, not really, but it wasn't like the worst.
Damn, bro, that's like the one scene I've seen people only care for. I've seen people complain about this movie, ask for refunds of the movie. Um, no one likes the music in this, but I do think there's a decent enough storyline for what they thought they were going for. You're just setting yourself up for failure when you're not giving people this rampage of Gotham City that they thought they were going to see. You're not going to get
Mhm,
Batman. The ending, I think, is definitely a flip on the fans that I thought was intriguing. I kind of spoiled it for you too because I got spoiled from what it was going to be. So I was already
mhm.
assessing the movie from that perspective of seeing certain characters in the background. Um, but I like how in the music, with you mentioning how bad they sounded, that Lady Gaga made a what she calls a companion album. The companion
Mhm.
album is her just reminding you, yeah, she can sing, bro. She's not that bad at singing.
She's not quite that pitchy in real life.
Yeah, she was like, "You don't get it twisted, bro.
Mhm,
I am still pretty good." I thought
mhm.
her performance in the movie is definitely underwritten in a way where it almost feels like an intro to her character for like a spin-off that they want. You know, I
Well,
feel
that's the thing, is like she doesn't really have a lot to do, and at a certain point, she kind of just disappears from the movie right before the climax. I don't know,
a
like,
little bit.
I,
I don't think
she's
she's completely
fine
gone
in
in the
the
movie. I heard
film,
some
but
people say she
it's
wasn't like there at all. I think she's enough in the
I
movie.
think that reaction that you're talking about is that there's a lot of people who thought this was going to be a like best
Bonnie and
lead
Clyde,
actress Oscar
right?
campaign for
Yeah.
her, and she's like definitely not the lead of this movie.
No.
She's definitely like the second biggest part of it, but it's really still Joaquin and Arthur Fleck's story.
What did they do with Killers of the Flower Moon?
A bunch of category fraud, but
Right?
yeah,
um, yeah,
I don't think
I
this
think
movie is getting the kind of reception where they can even
this
really
isn't getting
consider
anything,
that.
bro. No,
Yeah,
yeah. This
yeah.
is definitely dead on arrival. Although I will say with a lot of the talk of box office and the such, again, they made all their money in the past one. He really don't care. To me, this is like him doing another lap around to just make sure, yo, I got a lot weighing on my head for those of you who took it wrong. I want to let y'all know, no, you shouldn't be like Lady Gaga in the movie wanting this man to be that. I think that's the very obvious message in the film. But it's more
Mhm,
so just like it's him wanting to just end it so he doesn't have to deal with it again. But to a degree, he's almost tarnished the fans' perspective of the first movie because he's almost like telling you, hey, all of those scenes where I get you to want him to do something on that late night show. I'm almost now damning you in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already made his money, so I know he don't really care. But I've seen him go around talking about his older comedy films from old school. Obviously, everyone knows the Hangover movies that Todd Phillips did. The way you apologize for jokes, I've realized that in order to apologize for a drama, I guess it's a musical.
Right.
Yeah, look, I didn't think it was the worst just off of the fact that the cinematography, it continues to be outstanding in this. The way that it's shot, especially watching them back to back, you notice it in the first movie, that whole shadow thing that they bring up for the second one, where they really like they really hone in on that. There's a lot of shots in the first one where it's always done in a perspective where you see his shadow behind. And I listened to the commentary with the cinematographer, and I was like, damn, you kind of had that be a through line. When it comes to the second one, though, I thought the musical numbers also looked cool when they were in his state of mind. Like, he's doing his own late night show. It's the same color scheme as the Murray show, because those are the only moments where he's starting to be happy and the such.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it looks bad. Like, I can't give it negative points for that.
Right. I do think that this is a film that was well shot, and cinematographer Lauren Sher was nominated for an Oscar for the last film. I think this film, you know, at worst it looks competent, and at best it does look beautiful. Like, there are some really stunning visuals put together there. When you're talking about some of those musical sequences, I feel like for a lot of them, I felt like the ideas were half there. Like, yeah, they're on this sort of like set doing this singing and dancing show, but it's sort of just that, and I think,
but Zachary, he's half there.
Sure. To me, the best shot number was that first one that kind of is done in one shot around the different inmates for once in my life, because it just sort of like a lot of the music moments in this film, they don't really like announce themselves. They sort of slip into the songs, and the way that sort of slipped into that moment I thought was well done. But, you know, I think for the most part, it doesn't, like, it feels like Phillips doesn't have his whole heart in making the musical, and they'll do the gestures of a musical, but they won't go all out. And I bumped up against that.
Okay. I can see that, because I think the musical side of it mainly comes from Gaga, and it mainly comes from Joaquin. There's like a whole tap dance sequence that he does. I thought that was some of the better parts from comparing it to the first one, when he's doing his dance walk down the stairs. And I come to find out that he was like a tap dancer. I guess, like, when they were kids, he was the tap dancer in the family. He didn't have the best voice, as is obviously seen. But I thought he had like a looseness to that I was like, oh, okay, that's you being most in tune with your character, like people enjoyed from the first film. I thought some of the side performances were pretty decent. The guard, what's his name?
Brendan Gleeson, my guy.
Come on, that he killed it. He was fantastic. He's got this through line where he's almost jealous of Arthur. There's this one line where he goes, "Yeah, you still think you're famous, punk? Like you're happy that you're getting the spotlight," and he hates it so much. And I was like, "Yo, I wanted more from them." There is a take in the movie. It's been spoiled everywhere. I didn't see it like that the first time, but I think you've heard about the certain sequence right before the final court scene. The guards take him into a bathroom. Something happens with another inmate. Do you think it plays out?
Prison shower scene.
Yeah. I did not take it as them doing a certain act to him.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the kind of thing where there is a cultural connotation, right? Where
showers,
maybe you can sort of like imply it, but they're not going to do that in a DC movie. Like, I'm sorry, Todd Phillips is a pretty long leash, but that might be a bit too far.
Zack Snyder came in and stopped it. It's a deleted scene because Mr. Snyder said, no. Look, I even if he did, I think the rhetoric of that being what gets the Joker released from him is so wild. Like, I don't think you could sexually assault the Joker out of a being, when in the court they said that's what caused him to become it, because when he was a kid, they had some elements from the first one where his mom was bad to him, but they you got a little industry reunion up there where you had
I was gonna say that was probably my favorite moment in the movie, when Ken Lung and Harry Lottie are talking to each other.
And they're having this back and forth. And I do want to get into those characters more, but they're talking about like, yo, he was obviously thrown to the side by society, the system, no one took care of him, but that like he was assaulted sexually and physically. and he's just like ignoring it when it's happening. So I think the idea that the guards doing that to him would take it. I think it would make him a super Joker, if anything. I don't think it would strip him away. I think what strips it away is the fact that something happens to an inmate at that point. Is the fact that he realizes nobody likes him for Arthur. They like him for the persona of the Joker. And I do like that story element to it. It is a slap in the face for everything you presented to the other people. And especially with the theories of what happened with the ending, which have been interesting, because I had also told you that there's a massive theory that this connects to another Batman movie. And I don't think that's the case, right?
Yeah, I think that's maybe making too literal of a connection.
Thank
when
you.
It's
Okay, I just
more
want to make sure.
of a like a spiritual thematic connection, if that makes any
Because
sense.
that's the whole joke. Yeah, the whole Joker bit is
Yeah.
we don't know where he comes from. There's this element to him where he performs at Pogo's. That is the serial killer John Wayne Gacy's name, Pogo the Clown. He's not John Wayne Gacy, but it's this idea of like, look at all these elements that come out of it.
Yeah.
I think it's just because people see a certain action that the character does in the background towards the end, that specific guy. So they're assuming, oh my gosh, is he going to turn? No. I think the idea of the Joker is that there's so much lore to him, you don't know where it goes. I didn't have that much of a pushback to that. I did not make the connection, but I think when you make like Easter egg videos, you kind of got to grasp at something. Did you hate the ending?
I didn't hate the ending, but like I think the movie had just lost me by that point. I didn't think it was like the most exciting bit, but you know, essentially it feels like what Todd Phillips is giving us here is with the whole film is like his version of a supervillain's like Lars von Trier story, or like Batman adjacent come and see. And ultimately, like, I just kind of don't think that's a good idea. Like, I get it if that's what your thing is, but I think that's kind of dumb. So it doesn't work for me.
I want to say come and see, but what was the first one you said?
Lars von Trier.
What was the double up? Lars von Trier DC?
Oh, I super villain Lars von Trier. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see that one. I thought that was an interesting take to it. But again, I'm of the complete belief, as most people are. This is him not cashing it in, but him trying to just like cement, yo, I don't want to be responsible for everything y'all have held over my head. I already got $100 million that I made out of this. I don't want my legacy to be known as that. And now he wants to go back into comedies. Please, maybe let's see what you could do back in comedies.
You find that punk rock of him? Is that a super punk rock move of Todd Phillips?
For what? To go back to comedy?
No.
Or the ending?
Like to make this his Joker sequel, to take WB's money and make this kind of movie.
Oh, no. I don't think it's punk rock at all, because it's him almost like apologizing for the first one. It's, to me, it's an explainer of the first. You want to know the best way I could describe this? This is the force majeure American remake. For those who did not get what he was going for in the Joker, the man overly spelled it out in this movie. That's what he did. And I think it's because he felt that he got too much pushback from the first film. So I don't think that makes it the worst, but it's definitely a part of it. That I can't say it's punk rock, because punk rock would have been doubling down on the idea of you didn't feel the need to explain the violence in the first. You just showcased it. And that's what scared people, is that you were almost making it enticing. Don't be scared and back down and have the man pull up to court to be like, I apologize for the sins of my past. That's definitely not punk rock. But I didn't find it as boring as I think most people have had with the pushback. I know that people have expectations for a Joker film, but I try not to review IP as much as I try to review what they're trying to do with the character. And maybe the musical may not have been the best part of it, very long, but I like Gaga in it. I like some of the Gaga songs. I don't know what she knows about psychology, but she was decent in the movie for me. And I like some of the side characters. I don't know if you want to, before you bring up that tweet, what you thought about your boy playing Harvey Dent, as well as Ken Long as, I forget what the doctor's name was for him, but Harry Lottie coming in as a young little Harvey Dent. I thought that would have been a really cool perspective to follow the movie.
In what sense? Like
him investigating, make it a core procedural thing.
Yeah, Exactly. I think that would have been, if you talk about what I would have done differently, I think if they could have leaned more into the courtroom thriller things and had more twists and turns in terms of the case and like, oh, is the jury actually going to acquit him? That would have made it a little more exciting, and maybe even leaned into some more of those ideas about like how these stories of violence can kind of be intoxicating in some ways. But as far as Harry Lottie in the role, I mean, I thought it was okay. His accent was a little bit interesting. Like, I think he was kind of going for a sort of JFK-ish affect, but
He was trying
not
to
sure
hide
if he got all the way there.
the British accent in the background. Yeah,
Yeah.
good looking guy.
He's
I thought it
working
would
on
have
it.
been interesting. Yeah, it would have been interesting to follow him along. But I also, with you, agree that one scene when Ken Lung comes in as I think he's a psychiatrist, because the whole
Yeah.
idea is that he was there 89 minutes interviewing the Joker.
Mhm.
That was a good back and forth, because again, those are elements where we're now just seeing Arthur in the background and there's other people discussing Arthur as opposed to Arthur's perspective of what's going on around him.
Mhm. Did you like in the subsequent court scene Arthur Fleck's Foghorn Leghorn voice, or
Yeah, I
favorite?
thought it was hilarious. It was so stupid, bro.
It's so stupid.
Because it's like a bit that doesn't stop, right? It's like when someone. So I have a recommendation later on when Trey Parker in his documentary goes Tarnation, and he keeps doing the Tarnation, and for whatever reason, by the 8th time, it's just so ridiculous. It just keeps making me laugh. It was so bonkers, especially when he goes up to the damn court guy or the judge, and he says, "Don't make a mockery of my court, bro." I don't know. I thought there was like something so stupid to it that it did make me chuckle a bit. And he goes on for like a long time with that voice. But he does it in the first movie too. That's what I realized going back to it. It's when he's talking to Puddles that he does it again. So I don't know if they just forgot to let us know that that's something that they shared in a deleted scene. But the fact that he wouldn't let it up, my audience hated it, bro. For my press screening, they were like, "Bro, what is going on?"
Yeah.
But I thought it was goofy for what it was.
Mhm.
There's also a comedian in this that has a special out this week. Bro, if I
Yeah.
keep seeing Tim Dillon in these horror-esque movies, he was in Thanksgiving as a security guard who kind of lets the whole thing start. He plays another security guard here, asking for an
Been
autograph
typecast.
from Joker. Good on him, I guess.
Yeah.
I recognize him, but he does play the roles very well. So I've been intrigued with him taking on security number 1 and security number 2 here in these
Yeah.
movies.
I always like seeing stand-up comedians get into different character actor work, because I feel like a lot of times you get like they bring a level of like I don't know, just sort of like everydayness. Like, I think
Yeah,
that's where you get your people who feel the most like they were pulled off the street but still have personality.
for sure. I'm trying to remember who the it's not Ro Castillo, bro. There's Is he a comedian, bro?
Peter Jacobson?
I don't know. I thought
I'm
there was
not
a comedian
sure.
for Smile 2 as well who comes up there,
Oh,
but there's right?
are you thinking about the first one or the second one? Because I don't know about the cast of the
I was
second
thinking
one.
of the second one, but I could be mistaken. But going back to the first Joker, there's also the guy who actually does the stand up in the first movie who makes fun of him when he's doing all that stuff at Pogo's was a good aspect of that, because I think you and I have the same mindset. Comedians can actually bring in some of the best actual dramaticness to it.
Mhm.
And maybe this is what this movie was missing, was actually having some humor to go along with it, because
Mhm.
it's kind of hidden in the background. Even that puddle scene, they decide to like make it a very sad scene, but then they'll like do a quick bit of him sitting on a yellow pages thing, and it's like, bro, what was that for? It made no sense.
Mhm.
But again, overall, I did not hate this movie. I do think that when the dust settles, it won't be as hated for it just being like a follow-up project. Not the best Joker movie. Definitely Todd Phillips just wanting to cement that he wants to leave. I don't think it's punk rock, but I think it's an interesting follow-up for the psyche of Arthur Fleck. I like the whole shadow idea. Go ahead, read it.
Beyond Fest tweeted out, "It's punk as fuck that Todd Phillips got 200 million out of a multinational corporation, employed 1,000+ people, and made a film he wanted on his terms. It's kind of irrelevant if people don't like Joker 2. We should be celebrating this madness." I just saw this one going around on Twitter over the weekend, and I don't know, that's not my definition of punk rock personally, but I'm always in favor of people in the film industry getting employed.
Yeah. What would be an example of true punk rock? I'm trying to think. I think the first one was more punk rock.
Yeah. I don't know how punk you can be with $100 million. I feel like punk rock movies
Yeah.
are more happening in the indie scene.
Well, that's what I'm
Stuff like
saying. But
Joel
if like
Strikest.
compared to the two, the first one didn't have,
Yeah.
it was a surprise that it made a bill. This can't be
Meg-
punk rock because it's already made it.
Megalopolis is a little punk rock.
I agree with you. That applies to Megalopolis. But hey, Francis Ford Coppola came out and defended Joker Folie. He is telling you Megalopolis and Joker 2 will be remembered. Like these are the apocalypse nows of today. In due time, we will look back and see what could have been. Yeah, I'm trying. What else would be punk rock?
Alex Ross Perry a little bit. I mean, we'll talk about Pavements a little bit. It's maybe not punk rock, but a little alt rock.
Yeah. Overall, Joker Folie. I look for the cinematography, for the acting. I'm gonna give it half for the story. I don't think the story gets a full 100% on it, but I thought half of the story, while a retread of the first, was kind of trying to solidify what it was going for. I hate the musical numbers, and I thought the side performances were decent. I gave the first one 4 stars. I'm gonna go 3 stars on this one.
I'm all the way down at 1 star. I thought this was a waste of time. I thought this was exhausting to sit through. Incredibly boring.
1 star?
Incredibly boring. So that puts our collective score around 2 stars.
Yeah, it'll be 2. 1 star?
Yeah, dude.
I'm bringing Borderlands to Sundance, bro.
I'm looking forward to it. Kevin Hart, he's yelling a lot. It's comedy, right?
Joker 2 out in theaters. I did not see this in IMAX. Did you?
I did not. I went Dolby.
I went Dolby.
Could not be bothered with the IMAX.
I thought Dolby was nice.
Yeah, I like Dolby.
Dolby for the musical numbers, for him yelling, and for the colors as well. Because again, if there's one thing that I think has stood out for most people is what's the cinematographer's name again?
Lawrence Sher.
He did a fantastic job, bro. That man has not missed. And even remembering back to his comedies. Yeah, like Todd Phillips' whole shtick with his comedies, besides, making jokes that he said this one line recently when they were going back through his comments. What was it? They had brought up a bit and he goes, "Oh yeah, that aged. I don't think jokes should be timeless. They should be of the time." I was like, "Boo, bro, no." What a cope take, bro. Come on. Your joke aged bad. Just say that.
Right.
Yeah, his whole take again was that he's been working with the cinematographer for a while because all of his comedies were always supposed to not look like a Will Ferrell movie. They always look nice, right? The Hangover movies look very stylish. Due Date looks very stylish. So I want to just see more of the cinematographer's work. I know he created that one platform where you're able to see frames from a bunch of different movies in order to be able to kind of make like a storyboard for it. I'm blanking on what the name was, but I think it's a cool technique, but it also kind of adds to the allegations that they just take from other movies because that's all it really is. But it's a big platform. I forget what it is, but if you're a filmmaker, up and coming filmmaker, I'd look into that one. Look up the cinematographer. I think it's Film Blocks. Could be mistaken, but
Film Blocks.
It has like a frame from every single movie. So if you were like a sad scene from down below, it gives you every single movie frame that shot sad from down below or whatever. So
that's cool.
Joker. Folie, however
Story
it's pronounced.
blocks?
It could be. I don't know. I feel like that's the.
Oh no, film. Maybe Film Blocks actually. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Somebody can maybe leave a comment and let us know.
Big thing, I guess, out there in the industry, but I think it's probably too much to afford. But moving on to the next one at TIFF 2019, I remember we went out and saw this little movie known as The Platform, and it became an instant hit on Netflix. When we got to see it, the director came out and he decided to do this whole breakdown on the movie and what he thought it was, and that it's not about a certain system, it's about you yourself. And because of that, he doesn't want to overdo this story. It was a one and done for him. Well, it ended up making the most money, I guess, off of Netflix. It became the most viewed foreign language film, if I'm not mistaken. And now we have the platform too. It was one of many releases that we're going to be covering here that came out this weekend, along with Salem's Lot, which was a remake over on Max, VHS Beyond, which had some very interesting directors in the background as well, and then House of Spoils. You said you didn't get to catch platform 2 yet?
No, not yet. Should I even bother? Because I did enjoy that first platform movie. It's pretty inventive and stark and good suspense, and kind of feels like an interesting commentary on class and the
Yeah.
way that things are not evenly distributed. But can you mine from that well twice? Can you eat from that
There,
floating platform table twice?
it plays with the idea of how it follows it up and how it intertwines with the first movie. I'll leave it at that. Because the moment it ends, I had never seen Netflix literally pop up with a disclaimer that says, "Do you still have questions? Watch platform 1."
Wait, so
Crazy,
this
bro.
is like it's a not standalone sequel?
It is not a standalone sequel, dude, at all. So
Wow.
there, I do want to make a breakdown of it, but the positives I can give it is the fact that one, it looks better somehow, and that's interesting because you just have them in cells, but they do some interesting elements with it in terms of answering questions of like how do they get switched on a monthly basis, and they add some
Yeah.
cool parts about how they float through the skies, different colors that come into play. It's
Yeah.
shot very well.
Well, while the first movie was, I think, pretty well realized and the production design was pretty good, it didn't strike me as a movie that necessarily like cost a lot of money. So I wonder if
Right?
they got that Netflix money now, they can make things look a little prettier.
You know, easily. But the story itself, I to put it to you simply, I think the idea is again, like we're talking about with Joker. He was kind of saying no system's good. Everyone saw the platform one, and they're like, "Yeah, capitalism sucks." So in this one, he's kind of saying socialism, communism is kind of the bit because the whole idea is that now you have a woman who enters it, and there is like a regime inside there that's trying to force people to share in what else, and it's her pushing up against that regime. So it's yet again another director kind of telling you, all right, if you missed the message from the first one, I'm trying to double in here. I have seen a lot of people have pushback when that's obviously the message in the movie, the same way that the first one had pushback from people who are very big capitalists. The way that it tries to intertwine its narrative to its metaphors, which is what the first one did as well, is where I think most people get lost with it. Because to me, this is trying to set up for a third movie yet again.
Mm.
And none of it, in my opinion, can tie in with the way both movies have ended already. Without getting into too much spoilers, but you both characters kind of go through a yeah, I'm not gonna say because they're just gonna get into spoilers, but the way both movies end, I think has them wanting to, lack of a better term, have their cake and eat it too.
Mm.
And I don't know how that's gonna work out for a third movie. Yeah, they want to play metaphor and then they want to play narrative. We'll see how it plays out. But once you do catch it, I'm curious to see if you know of anything else. I think the performances are still fine in this, but it is the same story again. He's just trying to play the other side of it at this point. But it does connect to the first. So there is some interesting little Easter eggs there, but they don't really expand the world as of yet. But I'm sure the platform 3, 4, and 5 will. Just like Salem's Lot. Adds nothing
How
to the remake.
Oh, yeah? Because I
Nothing.
I don't think I have seen the original either, so is this
A
a
miniseries?
property you were,
Yeah.
like, interested in returning to? You know me with horror movies that came out when I was younger.
This is Goosebumps, bro, for like tweens. I don't even know. Like, it's not that family friendly, but it's also like, what are we doing here? We're adults. This movie has
Mhm.
been in the reserves for a while. It was supposed to come out in February. Did not. I guess it's cool that with the colors and all Halloween things considered, it's coming out now. But you got Bob over here coming in, Lewis Pullman, as a kid who was involved in accidents in this town, returning to it. And it turns out there's an insidious thing happening, and that is that there's vampires. They try to play it as a metaphor. All the cast has come out and said that this is supposed to be a metaphor for like misinformation or bad thoughts or whatever else that stings their fangs in you, and then you turn and it becomes this massive thing. It's just another vampire movie, bro. I don't know what to tell you. The kid in it's pretty cool. That's why I say it's very Goosebumps-ish. Like, there's this
Mhm.
really badass kid. I don't know what his name is, but I thought he was pretty just awesome in the movie. Like, if you were
Nice.
a child, and I don't know if this is rated R. Yeah, it is rated R. So if you somehow, again, like back in the HBO days when it was on, the TV, you snuck in and you were able to catch this movie streaming. Yeah, Jordan Preston Carter. He just plays like the kid who's always able to make it out of his own situations. There's this one bit where he comes in and he gives them the game plan, and they're like, "Bro, aren't you like 11?" And he don't even respond to that. He just gets the job done. So yeah, it was okay for what it was worth. I was looking forward to Alfre Woodard in the movie. She's fine in the movie, but it's a
Mhm.
Gary Doberman flick, which is why I expected a bit more because he's done some good stuff for Warner Brothers in general. He did the better Annabelle movie, in my opinion, from what we've had. He was the writer on it.
Hmm.
Only so far you can go sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's out on HBO if you're interested. I caught half of
Yeah, there was
VHS.
a
I don't know if
lot
you.
of straight to streaming horror this weekend. Every platform felt like they had one.
Yeah, I saw half of this, so I'm only going to mention the one that stood out to me.
VHS
There is this.
Beyond, yeah.
There is a stork bit. Um, that felt like Willy's Wonderland. And so far, from what I've seen in all of these movies, they really stick to practical effects. So that's the big shout out that I'm going to give.
Mhm.
So far, none of them have really wowed me. But there is a Justin Long, and I'm blanking on his brother's name. The Long brothers decided to make like a Tusk 2.0 that deals with a woman who's got some like influencer PETA people breaking in to her establishment because she does taxidermy on like pets. And I'll let you just figure out, or go catch the movie over on Shudder to realize
Yeah.
how bonkers that one goes. But so far, they've been okay, and I feel like that's been the run for VHS, bro. They've just
Yeah.
been okay.
That's sort of the deal with these VHS movies, is that because they are these horror anthologies, these short films from a bunch of different directors, I feel like most people come away with them being like, there was two out of the five or six or whatever that I really enjoyed, but most of it was just okay.
Yeah, but it's crazy because they could do so much more with these. I think they should bring back the
Yeah.
original guys from the first VHS movie and do something with it. But
Did
the
you
last one
see the
was.
sequence that was involving jumping out of planes? Mirjani said that I think that was his favorite one.
I don't like the second half of it because I think
Mhm.
it tries a little too hard with its creature. It's like, whoa, look at that creature, and okay, whoa, now it's got that on its face, and yeah, why not that on its arms, and yeah, it's like it tries to double up everything it possibly can. But the skydiving in that scene, yeah, we'll give it that credit. The skydive is probably the
Nice.
best clip in the movie, not the best story, but I think they actually had like footage of people skydiving, and then we're able to like intersplice with other stuff. So again,
They Tom
the
Cruised it.
practicality in the movie, yeah, it's pretty cool. But the final
Nice.
one, you did get the chance to catch this one over on Amazon Prime, House of Spoils, starring Ariana DeBose doing her thing. You like it?
Yeah, she is always doing the thing. Uh,
Several
uh,
things.
I thought this one kind of was a bit rotten by the time that I got through it, for
Mm.
lack of a better way of
All right,
phrasing
Arthur
it.
Fleck. All right.
Yeah, so this is a movie where Ariana DeBose plays the chef who has sort of just linked up with this financier to open up like this dream restaurant. It's sort of like the restaurant from The Menu, in that it's this sort of isolated
Yeah.
restaurant, and where they're farming everything, and everything is sort of uh it's all this one big operation to deliver this fancy elite class cuisine, Michelin star type of new American stuff. And it's an interesting setting. That's why we keep making movies set in kitchens and about chefs. This one is sort of giving you a bit of uh, a more heart and spin on it, because she sort of keeps noticing things spoiling, bugs everywhere, and she's haunted by this. And that's sort of like a familiar thing. A lot of movies sort of do the thing where uh the actor is, are they sane or are they crazy? They're seeing bugs. It's the like the Tracy Let's Play bug all over again.
Mm.
And it just sort of, it's not surprising, I guess I would say, in that sense. uh I think we're used to these movies where it's sort of, you're constantly questioning, well, how much of this is real and how much of this is in her head. And I didn't find the execution of it to be that that riveting or that entertaining. And maybe a small part of that is that, like, there's just like a visceral response to seeing a bunch of like rotten and spoiled bug covered food that is not fun. Like, it's a different type of horror than the horror we're used to in horror movies, where they're showing you like blood and guts. Like, sure, that stuff is not fun to look at, but I feel like on almost like a biological level, our bodies see, you know, moldy food, and it's like, oh, I don't, get me away from this thing.
Yeah.
I thought there was like some interesting visual ideas in there. There's sort of like a witchy element to this movie, and the whole idea of like, she's like standing over her bubbling cauldron making soups. Like, it's fun to kind of create that connection between like a chef and a witch or whatever, but it just doesn't do a lot with it.
Yeah, Prime has this like record with doing a lot of these movies where it's like you're left so in the middle, and that's kind of what it's lukewarm. It's a lukewarm meal, because at that point you have an interesting premise, but you know that they have all the ingredients to make it better. You have a good cast. Barbie Ferris in this, as well as like a apprentice, but also someone who wants to take over her own job. I'm blanking on what's his name, Stewie. I don't know the actor's name.
Moayed, yeah, the excellent actor
from Succession. He comes in and he's technically the guy who's running the place. All of these elements, I think, could have been better. It's not a bad story. It just could have been told in a more interesting way.
For sure.
That's it. So, House of Spoils out on Amazon Prime, like we were mentioning. VHS out on Shudder. We've got Salem's Lot out on Max, and then The Platform 2 out on Netflix.
Before we completely move on from House of Spoils, just talking about like films we saw at film festivals in 2019. Did you see what the directors of House of Spoils previously made?
Let me see. Damn.
Blow the Man Down. This was one of the first movies I saw. This one, no? That's my first Sundance. I think you liked this one a little more than I did.
Was this Sundance? No, this is Tribeca.
Oh, okay, never mind. That's my mistake.
Tribeca tracks.
I remember not loving it at Tribeca.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds like a Tribeca pick right there. Yeah. And it was Prime, so that's probably how they got their deal. What was this one about?
Man, everything pre-COVID is a blur. It's something set on the shore. I think there's a murder.
Gotcha. Hey, but it's got character actress Margot Martindale. So
yeah, this one was Finest Kind before Finest Kind.
Well, there you go. And they did a Stephen King little thing in the past, if I'm not mistaken, unless it's not Stephen King. But The Stand should be Stephen King. Someone gotta get the rights to that. Anyway, curious to know y'all's thoughts on what the best one was out of this week. I guess I'd go The Platform, bro. Like by a little, but that's not even saying much. I'm just more intrigued on like what the heck they're gonna do with this third one. If no one can escape this thing, but kind of okay. I mean, we got Terrifier coming out this weekend. I know you're not the big horror buff, but do you have a Halloween thing you're looking up to? Something you rewatch? Some Hocus Pocus, Halloween Town?
You know, the movie that I'm most anticipating is, I've been sitting on the screener for Red Rooms, and I've been hearing nothing but awesome things. So I think that's going to be my toe dip into some scary stuff. But I'm also planning a big movie night with a bunch of friends to show them one of my favorite films of the year that just came out this weekend on Netflix.
Tell them.
It's What's Inside. It's finally available. We've been hyping it up for months. We loved it out of Sundance. We loved it even more out of South by Southwest. This is an incredibly fun horror social thriller comedy of sorts about a group of friends who get together and things are revealed and games are played. It's got kind of almost like a bodies element to it. I like this one more than Bodies, and a lot of that is because of the visual inventiveness and creativity in this film. I think director Greg Jardin, it just packs the movie full of these really amazing sequences, stuff there's really interesting color theory stuff that he plays with in the film. You know, I went back and I watched Greg Jardin's student film from his days at FSU. It's called The Problem with Fiber Optics. He made this one way back in 2005, almost 20 years ago at this point.
Sheesh.
And it's kind of amazing to see how many of the techniques that he perfected in It's What's Inside were with him this early on, from
Fire.
the way that the film sort of does these transitions that are really quick and efficient and fun, to like the whole method of like comeuppance on his characters feels very similar. The endings feel kind of similar in this film and It's What's Inside, as well as some of the elements of like interacting with the human brain. I think it's really interesting to see a guy who's just sort of like iterated and thought about these ideas for a long time, finding a way to perfect them and make something that's just wildly entertaining. And I'm glad a bunch of people have been enjoying this one, because I've been hearing from people who finally got the chance to see it and who also ended up liking it quite a bit.
Is Fiber Optics on YouTube?
It is on YouTube.
Fire. Now, you say everyone's liked it. But Ricky Buzz in the chat saying it was horrible, Zach. Duke it out. Tell him, what is he missing?
I mean, everything. It's extremely entertaining. It's visually creative on a moment-to-moment basis. Like, I can't imagine not enjoying this movie. Sorry.
Luna had made the comparison of coherence by bodies. I like the bodies comparison because I love that movie as well. I think I have them equal, but they're both movies based off of a game. I don't want to say, I don't think it spoils it, but it's a very specific game that people play with friends, in my opinion, that I think people have different names for it, but I won't say it here. But I do want to do a spoiler talk with it, because there's some elements to it when you rewatch it. Characters in the beginning will say lines and you're like, whoa, wait, that line means something different. And then there are moments towards the end where if you pay close attention to reflections, you're like, damn, look at all these clues that are happening there. I think this is a blast just through and through. We caught it twice, once at Sundance, once at South by. It's just a fun movie, bro. And I wish it did have a theatrical. It should have had a limited release theatrically. It would have had people talking. Yeah, bro. Bad move. But I'm also of two minds, because I like that it's available on Netflix. I like that people will be able to stumble upon it and have access to it. But yeah,
they could have had it on Netflix after 3 weeks in theaters.
That too. Well, you just can't give it to Netflix, bro. You just cannot give it to Netflix at this point, because I feel people also know this is a Netflix movie. I'm not going out to the theater for it. I will wait the three months. I wish somebody else would have picked it up.
We had a really interesting chat with the director, Michael Felker, who just put out his movie, Things Will Be Different. And we were asking him a little bit about, distribution and what you're looking for when it comes to theatrical distribution. And he said that one of the things that they were thinking about is a film that gets a theatrical run is often thought about differently than a film that doesn't. And there's just like a different... It's sort of it's put in a different class. There's more interest around it. People just sort of think about it more like a real movie if it's played in theaters.
Yeah, because we always hear that, right? Oh, that's a Netflix movie. Well, yes, it's on Netflix, but it's still The Irishman by Martin Scorsese. Right. This doesn't have Martin Scorsese, so with people barely knowing a lot of the cast, it sucks that some people may come with those preconceived notions. You and I saw it at Sundance, hyped. But when you're just on Netflix scrolling, I don't know what you're coming into it, if you may or may not be paying attention fully into it. But I think it's a gripping one. Big thumbs up for this one, as well as another shout out. And I'm sure you're going to have this later on as it gets, or I think you had it last week, right? But we have our whole interview that we did for Things Will Be Different that is out technically in theaters and on VOD. This is we could say time travel, right? Time travel movie.
Yeah.
That we caught out of South by. And Michael Faulkner, when we talked to him, gave us a pretty big scoop when it came down to perspective of it. And I loved it, because it's like, that's not what I was going for, but damn, did that sound really awesome. And he's like, I'll take it. And it works.
Yeah. Sometimes a movie, like a good measure of a quality of a movie, is the things that you can kind of project onto it and extrapolate from it that might not have even been the author's original intent. So this is definitely one of those movies where I'm sure you can put a bunch of theories against it and see what sticks
easily. And then speaking of time loops and such, you finally had a chance to catch Omni Loop. This one also premiered over at South by, and it came from a director that's intrigued us, because he's got a banger of a short film called Hudson
Yeah.
Geese. We don't gotta say anything more. I'm pretty sure this is available like on YouTube. It's only 6 minutes. Go
Vimeo
watch
at least.
right somewhere. What'd you think of Omni Loop though?
I thought it was pretty cool. We were again with Michael Felker talking about our favorite time travel movies and time loop movies and just the things that are fun about a time loop movie. And this is another one where it's playing with the forms of time loop stuff. I thought something that was two things that I noted with interest in this movie is that in going through our lists of the best time travel and time loop movies with Felker, we talked about a lot of movies that are very male dominated, and just seeing a film set in this space that stars two women, I think just sort of gives you a fresh perspective on this, and it feels different. It feels unique. But it's also that this is a film that, unlike a lot of films sort of set in the time travel space, where it's ostensibly like our modern world and suddenly somebody invents time travel, this has got kind of like a weird sci-fi spin on it, in that like this is a woman who has been diagnosed with a black hole growing inside of her, and there's a thing involving a man who's been shrunk down to a microscopic size and stuff. Like there's a lot of really like interesting little sci-fi layers to the world that Bernardo Brito is creating here. I also just think it's like a charming back and forth for Mary Louise Parker and Io Debris, who are two actors that I've consistently enjoyed, and they get a chance to be an odd couple of sorts in trying to get to the bottom of this time loop problem. So, it's not necessarily the most inventive or the like most laugh out loud experience I've had in a time loop movie, but I thought it was fun and it kept me entertained. And I don't know, I thought there was a lot to take away from it too.
Nice. Omni Loop is out on VOD. Hopefully, it gets a streaming release because I think that's where more people will be picking it up
For sure.
That is. Oh, I figured out what the other one was too. By the way, it is ShotDeck. Yeah, we're saying Story Blocks, but ShotDeck. The cinematographer Lauren Sher, we said, from the Joker, worked on this bad boy. Yeah, right there. Founded by Lauren Sher. This thing literally has images from every single movie ever. It claims to have them all in like 4K. Anything you need searched up, it will have in this boy. So if you want to say that the Joker is guilty of ripping from other movies, I mean, yeah, they literally invented a thing where, look at this, bro. Everything. If you want a dramatic shot that's shot on a camera, that's a specific frame size, the color, whether everything is in this bad boy.
Very cool.
Again, that's a cinematographer tools. I still think it's a good tool. Perhaps not something that you should piece together to then just recreate other movies, but just want to make sure that was out there. ShotDeck.
Definitely a valuable tool.
Yeah, I heard they had used this for Greg Fraser's Robot Creator. And Creator would be another one where I'm like, okay, y'all were like the best shot movie of that year, in my opinion. So it is definitely a tool to have in your arsenal. But I think it's one of those like subscription ones where it's a lot of money. I think you like.
Yeah, look, if you're going through the process of making a film, maybe that's an expense that you can find some room for. I don't know. And if you're looking to find the name of that website or just the names of any of the movies that we've mentioned so far on the show, you can check out the Intercut Pod Letterboxd account, where we are updating lists with every movie that we mentioned on this week's episode. So from a Joker Folie Adieu to Hudson Geese, that Bernardo Brito short film we just mentioned, you can follow along on the Intercut Pod Letterboxd account.
Beautiful. All right. New York time. How you got these ranked?
Ooh, are we going from like least favorite to favorite, or do you just want to go chronological? Is there a movie you're most curious about?
Yeah, so I wanted to know which one had the biggest protest out of like which one had, they do standing ovations.
Yep. Which one had the longest protest?
Yeah, I want to know, like, from the march into the stage and the such. Have you been hit with another one so far?
There were two pretty big protests that I noticed at New York Film Festival, although neither happened while I was in attendance, so I can't speak to the on-the-ground feeling of them. But there was the protest during the Q&A for The Room Next Door, in which
Yeah, heard about that
in
one.
which pro-Palestinian protesters got up and were starting to shout stuff towards the stage, and I think some members of the crowd booed them, but I thought it was pretty cool
I
of
heard that.
Pedro Almodovar and Tilda Swinton to
Yeah,
try to offer them the
a
microphone. Like,
mic.
that seems like the best
That was fire.
yeah, right. And they had some thoughtful responses to that as well. Tilda
Yeah.
talking about somehow finding a way to tie it into the Room Next Door
Magic.
movie.
What a legend.
What PR
a
training,
professional.
yeah, a
Aren't
PR
we all
mastermind
both
there.
sides? Aren't we all on the other
We're
room? I was
always in
like,
the room
damn.
next door to yeah.
I
Beautifully
might have to
done
make
by
room for
Tilda.
him at Chicago. She really worked that
There was
in.
also the protest that happened during the screening of Paul Schrader's O Canada, in which climate protesters got up on stage and held up a big banner, which, like, if you're going to pick anybody's movie to have a climate protest during, the guy who made First Reformed might be the best choice you can make. So I don't know. I guess
Why?
I don't. Luckily, unluckily, those didn't interrupt my screenings.
Have they done that for press?
Done
That's
what?
pretty clean, right? Like, people just
Yeah.
for press.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the thing is that, like, because it's press, like, they know everybody who's in the room, whereas if it's a public screening, anybody could buy a ticket, and I kind of feel like since we would lose our press privileges, that stops some people from actively protesting during press screenings.
Probably.
Although,
but like, imagine buying a ticket, waiting in line, going in there, watching the whole movie, and then going.
Well, I mean, they got their money's worth. They waited until the movie ended, so they still got to see
what
it.
I'm saying, the patience there. I respect it.
When we saw protests at TIFF, a lot of times they were doing the protest during the intro, so those people didn't get to actually see the movie they bought the ticket for. Yeah. No, I mean, it is an interesting note, though, because I feel like we're seeing this more and more and more of these protests that happen during film festivals and
award shows.
And award shows as well. And entertainment is obviously this thing that is a diversion for most people and an escape for a lot of people, where you can use it to sort of not think about the world's ills. But of course, any good art will have some sort of political consideration to it. And these films don't exist in a vacuum. Neither do these film festivals, which are funded by a lot of the same companies that fund war efforts globally. So, it is just a reminder to be very conscious about your decisions, even when it comes to entertainment.
It's like, they're gonna revoke your pass tomorrow. You'll be.
I'm hoping not, man. I'm hoping that I can, like, at least acknowledge a protest and still go to TIFF next year, because I don't know, they be revoking some passes.
Hey, it's art, right? What were we saying? Art is a form of expression. That's all art is. So you cannot, as Tilda said, you cannot stop someone from expressing themselves when we're showing a movie about expression. And the craziest thing, this isn't the time or the place. I mean, look at this movie, bro. The New York lineup been made up of Fantastic Fest movies.
Yeah. It's really interesting to boo protesters and then clap for a land acknowledgement. But that is the dichotomy of film festivals for you.
You know what my favorite bit has been? People who complain about land acknowledgements. I think that because I feel like one festival did not like that I had called out that they were just copying another film festival for doing it. I'm like, bro, y'all don't even believe in this. I got a lot of trouble for that one. But the people who make fun of land acknowledgements and think they're goofy, then they take their hat off for the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know. I find that so funny, bro. Oh, what'd you see?
Man, I saw a bunch of
There's
stuff.
Movies I heard at the New York Film Festival.
There are also movies at the festival. It's not just a protest festival. And it's not just a festival in order for people to get into the Criterion van and pretend they are making a Criterion Closet video. I unfortunately did not get to do that because the lines are still super long.
We'll create our own.
Yeah, exactly.
At a Barnes and Noble
I got a closet. I just need your Criterions. Anyway, let's talk about On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. This is a movie that I've talked about in the past that a lot of times I try to know as little as I can going to a film as possible. And when your movie is called On Becoming a Guinea Fowl and you're main image is this one of this woman with this like bedazzled bicycle helmet of sorts and upside down sunglasses. Like it's just sort of intriguing. It's like, what is going on here? And it's not it's not nearly as out there as maybe I was expecting given that pair of things, but what I got was an incredibly thoughtful and really realized portrait of um, this middle class Zambian culture. This is a
Okay.
film about a woman who stumbles upon the body of her uncle one night, and then the
Okay.
subsequent funeral processings and moments of grief that occur between her and her family. And for about half of this movie, it was kind of giving me like Zambian Shiva baby vibes, in that it's sort of about the nuances of this like highly specific cultural experience when disparate family members gather to grieve, and what happens when you're sort of locked into a place with all these different people, many of whom you have like bad histories with and maybe don't get along with, but you're all there for this one reason. And then it sort of becomes less of that kind of like awkward comedy of manners thing, and a lot darker and a lot more about like deep lying trauma and hidden pain that sort of gets brushed over in family settings. And that's when the movie sort of went to another level for me, because I thought this was an incredibly powerful piece of cinema about the things that we do and don't talk about, especially between loved ones. It just sort of has this build where you are realizing the depth of negligence in some ways to address the rot from within this family. And I thought it was a pretty like beautifully done film that feels very like true to life, feels like it's ripping directly from real life, probably in some ways. The characters are so personable and feel like real people. They don't just feel like objects to put the plot in motion. I thought this was a pretty stunning film that is going to be released by A24, so hopefully one that
Oh,
people will
really?
get a chance to see.
Nice. Does it have a date?
In the US, it's December 13th right now, so
Ooh,
a couple months
probably
away.
limited
Not
too.
probably limited. I would guess it's limited. This is a film that unfortunately did not get like a huge turnout at the New York Film Festival, and it's a
I saw,
huge shame
yeah.
because I thought this one was really strong.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to catch it at Chicago. There is no press
Nice.
screening, so that is another thing. They
Oh,
gotta help themselves out with the word of mouth. That was another thing for TIFF as well when we had reached out for Chicago. I'm hoping that they have more stuff available, but it looks intriguing, and I'm curious to see what this bedazzled helmet has in store for us.
we found out an interesting thing this year in regards to TIFF press screenings,
What's up?
because we don't always know the nuances that go on inside these festivals. But just to catch people up who don't know the press experience, most movies in the festival will have one press screening.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll get movies that have multiple press screenings. Interestingly, Megalopolis had no press screenings this year. I don't remember the last time a movie did that. But what we learned through some filmmaker friends is that your first TIFF press screening is free, but if you would like subsequent press screenings, you have to actually pay to rent out the theater.
That's
So that's
insane.
why you're normally seeing like the more high profile films, the films that already have a studio attached to them, as the ones that maybe have more screenings.
That's ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's you're competing with people like that. How much does it cost to make a digital link?
Uh, it seems like a lot because they are pretty stingy with them.
Exactly. I got this one in Chicago as well. How is this documentary? As I'm assuming you may be more of a fan, but how is it for someone who knows nothing about this band?
I'm not a particularly big fan of the band
Okay.
Pavement. I was trying to figure out why, because it feels like I should be. They're from an era of rock where, a lot of bands that I really treasure were their sort of like compatriots, contemporaries, maybe is the better word
Hmm.
to use there. They did break up in 1999. So that was probably before I was really into like my rock music listening phase of life. It's pretty
Gotcha.
young. um So, but like I've heard some songs. I wasn't completely unfamiliar with them, and they obviously have a pretty big reputation in the field of American indie rock. Um, that said, like I do think I would have had a better experience at this film if I knew the band better, because it feels like absolutely littered with these little references and in jokes and moments. But I think ultimately I still had a good time, and it's mostly because this is a pretty clever and cheeky movie from director Alex Ross Perry, a filmmaker that I like quite a bit, who's made movies like Her Smell and Queen of Earth. Listen Up Philip with Jason Schwartzman is a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that one.
Here he is doing a documentary, but it's a blend of different things because they are simultaneously putting together a museum dedicated to the band Pavement, a Broadway style musical, jukebox musical, our favorite word, of Pavement's music, starring Zoe Lister Jones, oddly enough, just to throw
What?
another name out there.
Why'd you start with that?
This is a real thing that happened, by the way. And they're also making a traditional Hollywood Bohemian Rhapsody style narrative movie that's going to be within this movie. Like it is all these like hagiographic forms of pop culture idolatry jammed within this documentary that is very very knowing and very clever. Like it is sort of a music biodoc that is making fun of the things that other music biodocs do, and that seems to be
Really?
in the spirit of the band Pavement, which kind of is always, it seemed to have always been doing things that weren't expected of a rock band in their position. So I think it's really like fun. It's full of bits, full of jokes. I think some of them are maybe like they think are more clever than they actually are, but I had a really I was really entertained by this. Particularly there's like a whole bit with Joe Keery, who thinks that this is his like chance to get nominated for an Oscar, so he's taking the research for the role like really really seriously.
He's a film
There's
within
a
a
lot of
doc within a film.
exactly. And so there's like fun little
That's funny.
beats and nuances to it. I think there's enough there that even if you don't like know that much about Pavement, like you'll still have a good time with it. I anticipate though, if you are a fan of the band, it's just going to be littered with all these really interesting things. You know, it's not a movie that like is going to sit you down and take you from A to B. How did their career
Mm.
develop? But like you do pick up things here and there along the way, and you're not going to be lost. But it's not like an intro to Pavement either.
Sounds concrete. Pavements. It's going to be at Chicago as well. Have my eye on that one for sure.
Yeah, and I think this one it's still bouncing around some film festivals, but I anticipate it won't be that long.
Picked up.
Mubi just acquired it. If I'm
Yeah, Mubi just charged me again. I had paused it. I completely forgot. I did not cancel. I got that $14.99 charge. I was like,
oh,
damn, Mubi. So
you know what? I made a mistake. It's actually Mubi acquired it for UK and France, but Utopia
no.
acquired it for the US.
And that's why this episode is brought to you by whatever VPN you need it to be brought to you by. Well, at least it got picked up.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
This next one, I feel like I've been hearing a lot about it. Why? Am I confusing it with something?
Well, I mean, I think it's because people just love dogs, man, and the dog in The Friend is quite a good boy, quite a quite
what's the
a
name of the
charming
one from Tim Robbins?
Friendship, the Tim Robinson one. So there's two Friend movies on the festival circuit, I guess.
Continue.
No,
Okay.
This is The Friend, which is the new film starring Naomi Watts. This is a film that is about a writer whose friend dies and leaves her owner in charge of his Great Dane, which is a gigantic dog. It's closer to a horse than a dog in some ways. And
I know.
but like, look, I can't say that this is necessarily like the most beautifully rendered movie or the deepest or most profound film. It is an exploration of grief because it's sort of what happens to both this woman and this dog when they lose this person that's so vital to them. But it is also this like really beautiful story of like learning to take on new responsibilities and the ways in which certain relationships can deepen our appreciation of love and life, even if they're not necessarily like arrived at in the most traditional ways. Most of all, it's just like a movie about how awesome dogs are and how great it is to have a dog in your life. And look, if that's the message you're trying to sell, it's a message that I'm going to eat up because I love a dog. There's so many moments in this movie where I was like, oh man, that's Penny exactly. And it got to me. You know, I admit that I cried at this one. How can you not when it's a movie about how meaningful dogs are to people? I don't know. I think that there will be a lot of people who find it far too saccharine because it is a pretty simple story, and it is, you know, really trying to tug at the heartstrings. It's not the most complex, but I think Naomi Watts just delivers a charming, vulnerable enough performance that it sells you on it. It's sweet. This is a movie that would be very easy to watch, like with the whole family. I think I would recommend it. This one does not yet have US distribution, so I have no idea when it will come out. But I would be surprised if this one doesn't get like a decent release, because I think, you know, if people would like a movie like Marley and Me, this is definitely better than that.
Sounds good. What's the dog's name?
Apollo. Apollo's a very good boy. I forget what Apollo's name is in real life, but they have a cute what is it? Bing, like the search engine. Yeah. Bing is and he's a cute Instagram account. He's apparently been a big hit at the film festivals. I know Bing went to Telluride and Bing was at New York. I didn't get to see Bing in person, unfortunately. That's not one of the benefits that press gets you.
But, did he protest? I saw Bing. I was seeing his TikTok account.
He can certainly cause a storm. His howl is mighty.
Well, this was a Telluride pickup as well, so I'm curious to see when this gets a roll up. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because this movie is both The Friend and the next movie that I'm going to talk about both come from books written by Sigrid Nunez. But they did not feel like very similar movies in ways other than that. I guess they are kind of like about the internal lives of like Manhattan elites in some ways. But The Room Next Door, I thought was a pretty interesting film from Pedro Almodovar. This one stars Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton as a pair of longtime friends whose relationship is rekindled when one of them finds out the other has been diagnosed with cancer. And it's a really interesting movie of these women who are sort of exploring their memories and their lives, the things that they feel like they succeeded in and failed in their lives. It's got a pretty like contemplative and almost like meditative feel to it, in that it really is very existentially tinged. There's sort of the specter of death is sort of looming over this whole film, and will we be content in our deaths? When is an okay time to let yourself die? And I think it's just trying to take on these really difficult questions without being too emotionally charged, trying to approach them with like rationality and logic and, you know, an appreciation for the life we do live. And in that respect, I thought this one was pretty profound and meaningful. You know, I think for people who, you know, look at the vast nothingness of death and feel the anxiety that is only natural from that, there's a lot of like really interesting takeaways from the conversations had in this movie. I thought it doesn't really like, it doesn't resort to easy altruisms or easy solutions. It is willing to like engage with difficult questions, and I thought it's pretty well done. You know, it's certainly like late period Almodovar in a sense of the way that it's very talky, it's very sedentary, but like it's beautifully rendered, it's really well acted. Of course, it is when you have Julianne Moore opposite Tilda Swinton. I like this one. I thought I thought it was a pretty strong movie.
You got any of them as your top performances for the Intercut Awards?
Ooh, um, I like Tilda Swinton a lot in this film. You know, it's kind of interesting. I think the Oscar bloggy type people have had her as a big contender in supporting actress, and I would too. But they Sony Pictures Classics, I believe, is the studio that has this one, and they just recently announced that they're campaigning both Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton as lead actors in this film. They do share a lot of screen time, but I think Julianne Moore is a little bit more the lead of this movie.
Gotcha. Besides them, though, what would you put them? Do you have them as a top performance, just in general?
Yeah, I mean,
you think there's probably several more that'll beat it.
I mean,
Just
there's
for you.
probably more. There's probably more outside of the festival that beat it. I'm not sure. Actually, you know what? The next movie that we're going to talk about probably has my favorite performance that I've seen so far at this film festival. So Hard Truths, it's the new film from Mike Leigh, a really excellent director, and he is reuniting with his Secrets and Lies co-star, or not co-star, Secret and Lies star, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who was, you know, obviously an integral part of that movie and is the lead here in Hard Truths, which is a really interesting, powerful kind of working class story. This is a story about this woman, Pansy, who is kind of quick to irritate. She's very sensitive. She's depressed. She's angry. Any sort of mild inconvenience is something that will immediately trigger her kind of like fight mode. This is the person who, you know, you accidentally bumped into at the grocery store and who yells at you in response, or who you spend like an extra second looking at too long and they will call you out for it. Like she's
Doesn't take any crap.
she doesn't take any crap, but it's rather than being a pushover, it's more that she comes from a place of so much pain and so much hurt that she's carried and kind of held within her, that she doesn't leave herself open to anything but anger and sadness. Like that's her only mode of communication through the world is through this kind of aggressive back and forth. And you know, it's the kind of thing where I've seen a lot of people call her character unlikable, and there's certainly an element of like frustration watching her continually mistreat friends and family and just strangers around her. But I think what Mike Leigh really cleverly does is show you that this is like born out of circumstance. This is an attitude that she's developed as a means of responding to the bad things that life has given her. And you know, I think there's maybe other films that have tried to do stuff like that. I found it uniquely powerful in this film because it's so much it has this real focus on the way that this attitude almost has ripple effects through her family, the way that her husband reacts to her, the way that her son feels stunted near her. And you know, what starts as like the first hour of this movie is actually quite funny. Her quick-wittedness and sharp tongue are really entertaining, but as that sort of builds up, it turns from being a comedy into like a real tragedy, and one of the most emotionally affecting films that I think I've seen here.
Damn, that sounds like a good character study. I know this has been getting played
Absolutely.
so many places. It's going to also be at Chicago, so I'm excited for this one because this got like a 2025 release date, so definitely catch it.
Yeah, it right now I think it's supposed to be limited in December because I think they are going to give her an Oscar qualifying run. There's some people who think that Marianne Jean-Baptiste will get a Best Actress nomination. For me, it's her and Mikey Madison are the standout actress performances of this year for sure.
Sounds good. All right, Hard Truths coming out hopefully near you or at a festival.
Yeah. Another one that people think might be in the Best Actress discussion is Emilia Perez, which I also got to catch up with this week. Is that one coming to Chicago?
I think so, but we don't have a press screening for it. But it's playing at the festival. But then it's like coming out in November, so I'm curious for it because this has been up. I've heard the story. We've been hearing the story. I don't want to say the word wild, but that it's got an interesting perspective again. But I don't know what it's about. This has been out there since Con, so tell me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big swing. In a movie year that is full of big swings, this is among the biggest, if not the biggest. This is the new film from Jacques Audiard, who has made some pretty interesting films. I know you're a big fan of The Prophet or A Prophet. I'm a big fan of Deep Han. Some people really like Paris 13th District. He also made an English language film in Sisters Brothers, which is maybe not as fondly remembered as some of his French
Joaquin?
language stuff. I think that's John C. Riley, and is it Joaquin? John C. Yeah, you're right. Joaquin and John C. Riley. Yeah.
I like how I know Joaquin and you know John C. Riley from it.
Yeah.
We did not know who the other brother was.
So Jacques Audiard is a French filmmaker who is making this mostly Spanish language film set in Mexico.
Let's go.
About a lawyer played by Zoe Saldana. I notice she's going by the Enye now in her last name, who helps a drug kingpin after the kingpin decides that they want to get a sex change operation.
Yes.
And also it's a musical. This is not phrases, but this one absolutely qualifies for it. This is a lot of movie. This is a pretty crazy operatic swing in which, there are dance numbers, there are action sequences, there is intense drama and tears shed and words used like knives. It is kind of a gigantic mess, but one that is like full of life and really interesting things. I kind of was going back and forth between being entertained by it and just being baffled by a lot of it. It is not boring for sure, but I feel like the decisions made on a scene to scene basis they vacillate between good and completely disastrous. Some of the songs have some of the worst songwriting that I can remember in a widely released musical. Like, just some of the lyrics and rhyme schemes make absolutely no sense and are laughable. Like, people were laughing not with but at this movie during this screening that I was at. But it's also got this like kind of compelling story at the center of it about family and the person we are on the inside versus who we present to on the outside. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who take issues with how it presents not only trans people but Mexican people. Like, this is a movie that is just littered with like cartel violence and does not have like a lot of deep character work with it either.
We could take it.
I can't say that it's like not compelling. I just kind of it is such a strange collection of things. It is funny, it's intense, it's dramatic, it's weird. I don't know, man. At the center of it all is Carla Sofia Gascon, who if you believe the Oscar hype around it, could be the first trans actress nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role. And I did think that she is giving a pretty incredible performance and somehow navigating the movie's wild tonal swings. When this movie falters, it's not really the fault of her. It's much more the writing and the structure that the film messes up with. I also was really struck by Zoe Saldana's work in this film, who, she's an actress who's obviously been in a lot of really notable films, but not one that I've taken super seriously as like a dramatic star. But she's you know, she's asked to do a lot of really strange things and, you know, do like sing ballads in the middle of action sequences and stuff like that. And I think she kind of carries it.
All right. So overall, you liked it?
Honestly, I don't think I did. I think I'm going negative on
Really?
Emilia Perez. I'm gonna go 2.5 on it, but
But more than Joker.
I definitely liked it more than Joker for sure. For sure. You know, it's weird because like I just kind of don't think the movie ultimately works. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't entertained by it or
You weren't
didn't
bored.
find elements of it riveting. I wasn't bored. I just kind of think it's a mess. And I'm prepared for that opinion to evolve because I've never seen something quite like this movie. But yeah, for now, I'm a little bit surprised that it's getting quite as much Oscars hype as it is. Like
Interesting.
yeah,
I mean, it got the Telluride pickup. It's getting a slew of festivals. Like we said, this one should also be at Chicago. But in case you're at home, if I'm not mistaken, it will get a limited release, but is going to be everywhere by November 13th on Netflix. So maybe that might be the best place to test this out because it does sound like it's a bunch of things into one.
It was kind of wild to see it with the crowd who seemed to be as baffled as I was because it is.
Oh, that's kind of fire though. You know what? I may have to see it in a public theater then. Damn.
Yeah, there is a lyric. Let me
all
find
original
this in
music.
My notebooks. Yeah, it's not jukebox. It's all original songs. It's crazy too because I think that this was based on a part of an opera that Jacques Audiard saw.
Yeah, of course.
But at one point, Zoe Saldana sings, "Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operations." That's the opening lyric of one of the songs.
Yeah. What's that Les Mis line? It sounds just like it. It rings just. Come on to me. Okay. What about Caught by the Tides? I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about this one, but it's the poster that intrigues me because it looks like Sunny.
Yeah, it does look like the robot from Sunny, right? So this is a pretty interesting film. I can't say this is a film that I liked that much, but there's going to be smarter people than me who have more to take away from it. And I do think that it is not a film that like is without interest, right? So this is the new film from Jia Zhangke. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but a really renowned Chinese filmmaker. And Jia Zhangke has mostly made films with his wife and muse, Zhao Tao, going back, more than 2 decades. So through his movies, you've kind of seen her age, and he's using that in this film by taking pieces of movies, pieces he shot for those other movies that didn't make it into those films to try and stitch a larger narrative that connects them all together. What that narrative was completely lost on me. I didn't really know what the story was, but it is sort of compelling to kind of see the assemblage of the passage of time, because it's not just seeing Zhao Tao grow 20 something years older of the course of this film, but you're seeing sort of the evolution of different elements of Chinese culture. Like there, for example, there's a scene in which many people are outside celebrating that Beijing won the rights to host the Olympics. And then several years later, you see people sort of ignoring the Beijing Olympics on the TV in the background behind them. And it's lost that it hasn't necessarily continued to be this point of celebration for everyone. And there's some stuff like that, as well as the way that like technology starts to creep into the film as it goes along. That's sort of interesting in the sense that like you're seeing a type of culture die out and a new culture come to the fore. I still thought this was kind of boring. I'm not enough of a fan of his films that I was able to recognize elements from them. I know some people who do know his work more intimately were able to appreciate those elements of it. So I think it's worth putting on your radar, but not one that's worth going out of your way for, especially if you're not super familiar with him.
All right. I know I've had Ashes Pierce White on my watch list for the longest time, so I might have to do like a double feature for his stuff. All right. Caught by the
I'd
Streams.
recommend Mountains Made Apart.
It's going. Where's that
Yeah,
one
it's a
at?
good one.
Oh, we're here. 2015. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, also on my watch list.
Yeah. Maybe it's from
There
me
we
telling
go.
you.
Pretty
all
good.
those years ago. Yeah, it's solid.
All right. The Shrouds.
The Shrouds. This is the new film from David Cronenberg, the body horror master himself. This is a film about a businessman, a technology entrepreneur who, after the death of his wife, sort of invents a new form of technology that allows the living to monitor the dead in their graves. Which sort of gets you to play with some of the interesting body horror elements that Cronenberg always is putting into his films. This one feels like one of the most personal films he's ever made. It is largely inspired by the death of his own wife, which preceded this film. And also Vincent Cassel, who is playing the lead of this film, Karsh, really feels like his character is modeled after Cronenberg. The character also makes films of a sort, although this film is much more concerned with his financial elements. But
looks like him.
What's intriguing about this film is it's sort of like a bit of a conspiracy thriller about grief. It's got all these elements in it that evoke paranoia in the characters surrounding what has happened to the recently the person who recently died, with the Karsh character's wife. And it sort of explores all these ways in which we find ourselves at a loss for answers about like what happens to the people we love and what's supposed to happen to us. And I thought it was really compelling. It is a very talky movie. Like all the action is kind of happening off screen and then getting told to us later. So in that element, it does feel a little bit slow, and it might test your patience, but I think there's enough interesting ideas and visuals and stuff sort of put in there. Cronenberg's always a filmmaker who his body horror is also sort of tinged with like these interesting elements of sexuality that I think were really cool in this film. It's a movie that I want to see again because I don't know if I know everything he wanted me to take away after one viewing, but I thought it was interesting for sure. It's not going to be top of my list, and it's definitely not near the top of my Cronenberg list, but I had a good time watching it.
Sounds good. The Shrouds. Should be doing a couple more festivals before it maybe gets a release. I don't know if anyone picked this up yet.
Yeah, I think somebody picked up the Shrouds. I would bet that it comes out early next year.
Okay.
It seems like a March release to me.
Sounds good.
Janus Films landed distribution.
Ooh, I like Janus
the last movie that I saw at New York that I want to talk about is Queer. This is the new Luca Guadagnino film, which is a film that adapts the William S. Burroughs novel. Interestingly, Justin Kuritzkis, who also wrote the script for Luca's last movie, Challengers, wrote the script here. Although I feel like you can see Luca's fingerprints on this one a lot more than you could even Challengers. This really feels like a combination of a lot of things that fascinate Guadagnino as a filmmaker. The film is set in Mexico City in the 1950s, and Daniel Craig stars as William Lee, this queer man who's sort of just experiencing this expatriate life, and there's this small sort of expat community of other people who have been staying in Mexico City, and then he's when suddenly he sort of is intrigued by this young student played by Drew Starkey, and they sort of have a cat and mouse-ish type of relationship with other elements thrown in there as well. And I thought this was like, for about 2/3, a more grown-up version of like a Call Me by Your Name style exploration of queer lifestyle, particularly, queer lifestyle as this oasis from the rest of modern life. how they sort of have that these queer relationships oftentimes sort of blossom removed from the larger society and larger people around them. And I thought it was really interesting, although perhaps not the most like exciting movie that Guadagnino has given us. And then the back third really takes this turn into something that's much closer to Suspiria territory. Lots of like drug-induced type of acid trip moments and visual body horror and really like experimental existential type stuff going on. It is a sharp left turn, and one that was fascinating to me, and I kind of want to spend more time in that movie, to be honest. I don't really know what to make of this one other than to say like it was interesting on a scene to scene basis and it's really well acted, but it is a sort of like it is a strange it's a strange way to sort of tell the story. So I don't know. It's not as satisfying as Challengers, and I kind of anticipate that based on people's reaction to this one, that even though a lot of people thought this was going to be a big Oscar player, we might see people start to push Challengers again in that regard. Because this is not the most like audience friendly experience, even if it was one that I thought was like very intellectually stimulating.
Okay. Looking forward to this one. Any other standouts that you would have on your top of the year list in terms of performances, cinematography?
I think Daniel Craig is very good in Queer. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get into some of the Oscar acting races. But from the movies that I've mentioned, I mean, it's Hard Truths and Emilia Perez that feel like the big award standouts to me, whether it's the performances in those films or some of the other elements behind the scene or below the line. I also would love to see On Becoming a Guinea Fowl get some love. I don't know if it technically could be a Zambian submission to the Oscars, since it's an A24 film. I'm not sure where it was produced, but if it is, it's certainly going to be one of the most memorable foreign language films I've seen this year.
Oh, Emilia Perez is submission, no?
Yeah, it is France's submission. They were tired of submitting films that didn't get Oscar nominations, so they went with something that feels like a sure bet.
They did go on a streak, bro, but that was on their fault. Like, they had a lot of options to put some good ones in, and well,
yeah,
they did what they did. But all right, that's pretty good. You still have another week? Or are you done?
No, this is the last week. I got 2 more movies left. Then I'm done. Left? But one of them is Blitz, the Steve McQueen one, so I'm still very excited.
All right, that sounds pretty good. I'm excited to catch that one eventually as well, because Chicago is right around the corner. I'll spend a quick little preview element right here talking about all the good stuff that's coming to the Chicago International Film Festival. 60th year. They're giving these bad boys out depending on which theaters you go to. And it's got everything you need to know. It's a nice little free pamphlet with the schedule, all of that good stuff. And in particular, it's them going all out because it's the big 6-0 and they're throwing a party and all that good stuff. So pretty much the big breakdown right here is the theaters you need to go to, the movies that would shout out, and any other little tips and tricks. So the first part is obviously you just go to the website. It's going to be running from the 16th to the 27th. Tickets are already on sale. Some of the big ones are out. But if you keep an eye or you add yourself to the watch list, I think they have like a specific thing so that you can be on rush or whatever, you may be able to get some on the drops. They have a site for the festival calendar that's going to have everything that you need to know, all of the films and their programs. But the big thing is the theaters. They are no longer at the AMC River East. I think you may have gone with me once to the River East, but you did go to New City. New City used to be an ArcLight, so it still has the remnants of that fantastic theater chain. This is where we saw the Crawdads movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that venue specifically has like an inside. What's it called? They call it the Round. I never knew it had a name, but the Round is where they're going to be throwing this year's block party. It used to be outside of the Music Box. They're going to be doing it there. Last year they had trivia. I am here to avenge myself in trivia because I almost got it. And then some cinephile decided to win. And they give out free coffee each year, specifically a collaboration that they do, and I hope they continue it this year, called Director's Cut with Dark Matter Coffee. Very good local coffee spot. AMC New City is going to be the main hub that they're going to be doing a lot of the screenings for press and public. But of course, they're going to have some stuff at the Gene Siskel Center, which is right in front of the Chicago Theater. It's got that very famous marquee. I think that's where a lot of people are going to want to go to take pictures, as well as the Music Box Theater, where they're going to be having the premiere, the Centerpiece movie, which plays at the center, and then the closing night film with Robert Zemeckis for his Here movie. So I would make it out to all of those if you can. Again, the Hub, AMC New City. Gene Siskel, I think, has the most comfortable seats, but the Music Box, like I told you, they got brand new seats. I haven't tested them out yet, but I haven't gone yet to go see my chair that's got my name on it. Like I told you, someone's sitting in my chair.
Because that was one of the things. You haven't taken me to the Music Box yet, but you said that it wasn't the comfiest theater. So hopefully that's a thing of the past.
It was my one stray that I had to give them, and they finally listened. They have cup holders now. Crazy 21st technology that they got. But I heard the seats are better. But one of the armrests has Alina and mine's names on it. So if I see someone in that seat, I will literally be able to tell you that my name is on that chair. On top of that, they have some of these free festival community screenings that they're going to be hosting at the Hamilton Community Center, the Chicago History Museum, the Logan Art Center, and I believe the Mexican History Museum, or I guess, the National Museum would be the one. Both of these right here. The community one is Hamilton Park and the National Museum of Mexican Art. You can check out a lot of the free screenings that they have hosted up there. They have a specific programming thing where you just sign up and you can go get free tickets. Like you literally just show up. So there's a couple of movies that they have already there from United Skates, The Knife, some good stuff out there. But the big stuff here, everyone knows how to buy tickets. You know where the theaters are at as well. You want to know about the movies. A lot of these we've seen. A lot of these I'm anticipating. A lot of these Zach just said may be the best of the year. So going through the ones that stood out to me, no particular order. The centerpiece one is Night Bitch. I have been very intrigued for this one because it is Marielle Heller. I've heard interesting things on it. The trailer was not what I expected it to be, but I'm still kind of curious for this one. This is going to be playing at the Music Box Theater, so it is a hefty ticket. But if you wanted to have a good Q&A to go with it, she's one of my favorite directors, and I want to make it out there to be able to hear her talk about it. I believe tickets are still on sale for this one as well. So you kind of gave it. Did you go full thumbs up somewhere in the middle?
Yeah,
I don't think you gave it thumbs down up, though. Okay, good.
It's not one of the best of the year, but it is really entertaining, and I think it's a good feel good mother story. It's not the most revelatory, but Amy Adams is always going to give you a strong performance.
But she's not bagging it for this one though.
No, this isn't going to be the one that wins her Oscar.
I think that's what. Yeah, that's a real pain. Which is also going to be playing here at the Chicago International Film Festival. It's going to be released, I believe, like right after the fact. But this is one that you definitely need to see with a crowd. It is personally one of my favorite movies of the year. It is vying up there with the top 2 spots. And I don't know what the other movie is, so this may be the one. I love this one coming out of Sundance. It was my number 1 pick. This has comedy. It has drama. It has one of my favorite performances from what's the boy over here? Culkin. Beautiful, heartbreaking, hilarious, all of it. A real pain. Definitely check it out. 2 cousins that go out to Poland to not just reconnect to their motherland, but to themselves as well. Directed by Jesse Eisenberg.
I'm planning a trip to Poland with my cousins right now. So this movie really hits close to home. It's a top 10 movie of the year for me.
No, play that before the trip. Damn. Play it at the airport.
Right? And then I'll slap.
We'll be slapping each other. Yeah, that's a good have to say goodbye. Damn, that would hit. One that I just caught this morning as we started rolling out our press screenings is a mystery thriller. What were you calling it?
Either House of Papal or damn it, I keep messing it up. It's Game of Papal Thrones or House of Cardinals.
House of Cardinals. That's the one right there. Log it in. Yeah. Post it already, bro. Conclave is a mystery thriller about a dead pope. Did he just go? Who's the one who's going to bang the most out of this? Because everyone now has to vote as they hold a conclave, which means that they're all casting in their votes. I remember the last one, bro, with the black smoke. We were tuning in like it was American Idol, like it was an election. Yeah. There are certain elements in this as well with the way that they vote, where they say like this thing in Latin, and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be me November 3rd, casting my ballot, and they're speaking in Latin next to whoever's next to me. I thought this fired on all cylinders, from the acting, the cinematography, but especially the story, the places that it goes, what it starts covering, the way that the mystery evolves. There are certain moments where I was kind of questioning how they were building up suspense just to build up suspense, but it all worked for me. And it's just standouts all around. Ralph Fiennes, incredible performance. You were calling him, you were saying, I think that Amanda's quote was
He's like
Game of
Ned Stark.
Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking Jon Snow. This man is, I don't want it for the entire movie. He just wants to help out with what he can, but he does not want to be it. You then have other people coming for it, like Stanley Tucci, who I believe says the banger line of, it's the people who don't want it that should have it, because the people who want it are probably the worst out there. His character was fantastic. It doesn't stop there. John Lithgow, insane in this movie. Every time he opens his mouth, I was like, I don't know, man. Everyone all around, even Isabella Rossellini, who I thought was going to be bigger in the movie. She still packs a punch every time she's on screen, even when she's not speaking. Incredible performance. And if I saw this at River East, she's got a big mural of herself. I told Alina, I'm like, just so you know, that's Isabella Rossellini that we pass by every time we go to theater for. Yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. I can definitely see this one. For me personally, which is what matters, is this is going to have some spots on our Intercut Awards, but I also think, considering who it comes from, Edward Berger, this is going to be there at the end of the year for a lot of award shows, considering how well All Quiet in the Western Front did. But big thumbs up on Conclave.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a movie that I think is going to like win Best Picture, but I definitely see it getting at least a couple nominations because it's a really solid piece of entertainment.
The next one that I am excited for, it is on my watch list, The Seed of the Sacred Fig. I have heard so much good stuff from this, and all I needed to know was the director, because the last movie that he did was also at Chicago, There Is No Evil, and it's the one that we're always shouting out, like, how much of a master of a filmmaker do you have to be that you're barred from making movies, feature-length films, that the man made 4 short films and then combined it to call it a feature. I have heard from you and everybody else that this one gets dark, that it gets... not that it's a thriller, right? Because there's another one over here
it starts as more of like a drama about like an unfolding situation in the country, and then it becomes a bit more suspenseful as the situation grows close to home. But you know, my whole pitch behind this one is like, this is the movie that I felt most accurately represents the way in which different generations receive news from different mediums, and the divide between what you get from cable news versus what you can see online, and how that influences your politics. You know, this to me was like arguing with your relatives during the Black Lives Matter protests, but set in this world instead.
Yeah, I've heard I already got my screening scheduled for it, and I believe it is Germany's submission. So
yeah, because it's a weird co-production of a couple different countries.
Sure, hey, whatever you need, I guess, to finagle it out of there. I already know it's going to be a great movie, considering the talent.
Given their history with Mohammad Razlouf, there's no way Iran was going to say this.
Oh, come on, bro. That was never going to happen. Yeah. It makes more sense for it to come from Germany than it ever would from Iran. Oh, man. Seed of the Sacred Fig. Definitely looking forward to it. Also, this one, I remember out of Cannes, this was getting a lot of buzz. The Girl with the Needle, and it's being pitched as a horror film. I remember when Ewan came out of it, he was like, bro, there are some things that happen in this movie. I am locked in for this one. I know that it has to do with like a clinic. And I mean, that's it. I'm trying to keep it as cryptic as possible. I know shot in black and white. I'm waiting for this one. I think this is also a submission. Not exactly sure what country, but it's going to be one of these 3. It's probably a Danish film, so I'm assuming them. But Girl with the Needle. Do you see this?
No, but Caitlin saw this one at TIFF, and she said it was one of the most harrowing films she saw in quite some time. So you're right to sort of be a little be on your heels, I guess, going into it. And yes, Denmark is the country that submitted this to the Oscars. This
well,
year.
That sounds cool, because I saw I get the horror tag, so I can't wait to watch it at like a 10 o'clock in the morning press screening.
Great way to start the day.
The one I did buy tickets for, already locked in for the Music Box.
Let's
35 millimeter screening of The Brutalist. This is the one you definitely have to be at. One of the first movies to sell out. So keep an eye on those rush tickets and any other extra ones dropping as well. Follow the socials, all that they need, all you need to know about whatever they may have for this one, because I know this got picked up by A24, but it's right. It's getting one of those rolling releases.
Yeah,
you don't know if you're going to get it in 35.
It's going to be out like around Christmas, which usually means that it's probably not going to be out in most places till like late January.
Plus, we got the Lion King and that Santa Claus rock movie. So, like, can we fit a 3-hour movie, Zach, with an intermission? No, you got to do it here in the festival setting.
Yeah.
This is playing, I think, midway through the festival at the Music Box. I'm super locked in. Brady Corbett's going to be there, bro. My most anticipated. I said these were in no order, but this is at the top. The Brutalist. Two ones that I want to mention from the new directors category, which tends to be one of my favorite categories that they have over at the Chicago International Film Festival, because the programmers will get you some stuff that's highlighted at TIFF and other international stuff, but then they'll get things from new up-and-comers, and many times you end up finding someone who's just starting their career, who ends up becoming a very prolific filmmaker. Peacock is crazy because, in particular, I want to read the Letterboxd one that they had for this. It's about a rent-a-friend agency.
Cool.
To me, that sounds like the funniest thing. One, because we've had all those Friends movies that you guys have been talking about, in terms of the ones that came out of
Friendship and The Friend. Yeah,
bro. Yeah. So I'm hoping that this delivers on that aspect as well. Let me pull it up over here. In particular, because there's no picture on Letterboxd. Matthias, I'm assuming, leads a successful rent-a-friend agency, but as soon as his girlfriend Sophia breaks up with him, his life spirals into absurd chaos. It's pitched as a comedy, so I am very excited to see that one, along with another one from the new directors category, My Favorite Cake. This is another one that takes place in Tehran, and it's about a woman that lives alone since her husband's death. And there's something about Chicago. They, without fail, if they give you a thumbnail that looks like an older couple, it's going to smack. It has had it every single year. It's always going to be this beautiful dramedy, and this seems like it's going to be right up there as well. My Favorite Cake. But wrapping up the last ones, I have a couple documentaries here. Slice of Life, The American Dream in Former Pizza Huts. That's all I needed to know about a documentary where they're going through all of the leftover buildings that used to be Pizza Hut establishments. So they obviously have a certain look to them because, no one out Pizza Hut in terms of architecture, but it's supposed to get into all of these crazy stories about the people who have now embodied them, from churches to all these different things. I'm fascinated. I just had Pizza Hut again for the first time the other day, the stuffed crust, because these damn commercials during the playoffs, bro. And it still smacks. So I'm excited to see this one. I'm going to order Pizza Hut for it as well. And I'll be tuning in with my second doc also being, I thought I had a second doc. Let me pull up a second doc. Let's pull up this one right here. The Last Republican. You heard about this one?
Yeah, man. This is one that I really wanted to catch in Toronto, but missed out. I'm looking for it in Philly, but this is a film about a Republican congressman, I believe, who is anti-Donald Trump and trying to sort of like recruit more people to that side. Yeah. But the film is made by Steve Pink, the director behind Hot Tub Time Machine, which happens to be this congressman's favorite movie. And that's how they got connected.
What? It sounds so bonkers. How could you not be into it? Obviously, this guy, he's very much a conservative, and then the director's like, I'm very much a liberal. To me, that sounds like a comedy masterpiece. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I may get a screener for this as well, so definitely stay tuned for The Last Republican as I give it the mention here for documentaries. But the last film, I think that might be the last film. Yeah, I think that's my last pick.
Nice.
Oh, no. This will be my last pick. This will be my last pick because you got the thumbs up for it. Flow. Yeah. We're getting it at the fest. We got a press screening, everything ready to go for it. For nothing but great things. Give me one line for people to anticipate.
I saw 2 movies in Toronto that were about wild animals in a world with rising sea levels that learn to cooperate, in which there's a key plot point in which a bird breaks its wing, and The Wild Robot was the lesser of those 2 movies. Flow is better than it.
Whoa. And you like The Wild Robot.
I do like The Wild Robot.
People love The Wild Robot. I've been getting a lot of comments, messages. Someone left a postcard. Wild Robot is people's favorite of the year.
Yeah. I think
okay.
Flow's a bit better. It's more
Damn.
artful. It's definitely not as much of a kids movie because like there's no spoken dialogue in this film.
She
It's
never
just
says I am
of-
Flo.
No, there's no like big Avengers moment, but I liked it a lot.
I'm really excited for this one. The poster
Beautiful
looks
animation.
beautiful.
You know,
I'm
he
all in for
made
that
this
one.
movie entirely in Blender.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like when you find out a really good YouTuber who's got like edits you're jealous of, made their stuff in iMovie, and you're like, all right, shut up, bro.
Shut up. Be able to be this talented.
I hate you more. But that is the 60th Chicago International Film Festival. Again, from October 16th to the 27th at the AMC Gene Siskel Music Box Theater, all that good stuff, where they're going to be showing some of the best of the year, especially focusing on that eye for the international selections. Make it out there. Say hi if you see us, any of that good stuff. But we'll be reporting back. Same way that Zach's going to be wrapping up more of his stuff from New York. I'll be following up with some stuff from here. All those dispatches. But now it's time for the most important part of the show. And that is giving a big shout out to the Intercutie patrons.
Let's do it. We got to thank the wonderful Intercuties who help keep the show going by supporting us. And they are shown on the screen right now in all three tiers. But we got to read out the names. In the Academy tier, they are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, May, Ricky, Joe, Wiley, Benji, Matt, Jeremy, and Michael, I guess. And then the producer level patrons are Toon, Brandon G, and Josh. A huge thank you to all of you for your continued support of the show. And a reminder that you too can be an Intercutie like these wonderful people by clicking the join button over on our YouTube page and getting access to all sorts of cool membership opportunities. You can also head over to patreon.com/intercutpod and do the same, signing up for as little as $3 a month to get access to stuff like early looks at our episode outline. Sometimes you even get an early look at our episodes. Patrons had access to our Michael Felker interview before that one was out in public, as well as our top 5 time travel movies list. But you also, for being an Intercutie, get invited to our monthly video chats with the Intercuties. These conversations that we have once a month where we catch up on what everybody's seen, talk movies, sometimes go over potential future episodes of the show. It's a great way to interact with Arturo and I and keep up on the latest with Intercut. And if you're just trying to keep up with the latest for Intercut, you can head over to patreon.com/intercutpod and join for free to get all sorts of updates, including our upcoming schedule, look into what videos we're planning for the upcoming months and things like that. Another great place to keep up with the podcast is by joining our Discord, where we keep the conversation going throughout the week. So look for the link to Discord in the description for this video. Also want to give a quick shout out to first of all, Michael, I guess, who reviewed us, gave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts that I mentioned last week, which is a really great thing to help support the show. But another shout out to Beanie Boy, who also left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Beanie Boy.
Yeah, Beanie Boy said we're well informed on what's coming out. Been listening to this for a few months now. I've caught a few movies thanks to these guys' recommendations. Great chemistry, and it's always fun to see Amanda on the pod. Thank you so much for that 5-star review, Beanie Boy. Really is very meaningful and a really great way to help support the show by leaving us a 5-star review. And if people go out there and leave us, 250 5-star reviews on the Apple page for this podcast. Yeah, 250. What was that?
250 per. Each one of you leave 250 reviews.
We don't need to do that. It's just if we get to 250 in general.
I want to demolish that goal.
Well, look, we'll get way past that, but let's get there first. And if we get there, I think we can promise people that you will deliver one of the songs from Joker Folie Do in full Arthur Fleck makeup.
Dude, you put the jukebox onto whatever, put it on shuffle. At 250, you got it. Right, but it's gonna be all in your mind though, because that's how the movie works.
Are we dressing up for Halloween? Do you want to do a costume for Halloween this year?
Yeah, I'm
You're
going
not
as a podcaster. Yeah, sure.
Man.
You dressing up?
I don't know. I need to figure out somewhere to go. I mean, maybe I could
I
dress
want
up
to say,
for the
who you knocking
podcast,
at, bro?
but-
The elderly people in the apartment, open up.
Yeah, I don't know. Invite me to your Halloween party. Maybe it'll give me an excuse to find a costume. Put
Come on
something
over.
together. Yeah.
Around that time, hey, it's Oktoberfest season, bro. We don't do the trick or treat. We do the pour. you just pull up with your stein. All right. Let's get into the new 2C, all the newest movies from this week. It's a pretty good week, I think. Let's start
better
off with
than the last week.
not as funny as the last week for sure. We Live in Time. This is the newest John Crowley film. Who is a guy that's made some bangers, in my opinion. Brooklyn is a standout. We thought, where'd it go, bro? Was it not him?
I'm not sure which one you're thinking about.
What's the movie with the mixtape?
Oh, then that's not him.
Who's that?
That was Ned Benson, who did Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby. He's worked. John Crowley has worked with Andrew Garfield once before on a movie called Boy A, which I thought was pretty good.
I don't think I've seen Boy A. All right, I'm gonna have to check that out because I thought he was excellent in this movie. This is a romance film told in how would you even say a jumbled up perspective, which to me
non-linear.
Yeah, I didn't care for that too much. I think it kind of cuts a lot of the suspense and the drama for what's happening. I think that's also kind of the purpose. Nonetheless, I was there for the leads. I was there for their chemistry. I was there to be shocked by an ending that I can't wait to get into spoilers about because I got some thoughts on it. But as the trailer shows you, it is about these two people who meet and are kind of on a ticking clock, especially when the story is told in a very jumbled fashion. But I like them.
Yeah, I mean, good. This is like your classic ill-fated romance movie in the style of things like A Walk to Remember, or I've liked from a few years ago. What was it, Little Fish, which is kind of fun, sci-fi-ish take on this one. This one is
like that. Little Fish take that's cool. This doesn't have the sci-fi, so it's like, why are we jumbled, bro?
Yeah, and like I like a non-linear story because I think it sort of forces you to play detective a little bit and figure out how does this piece connect to that one. But I don't know if We Live in Time did it in a way that was very satisfying. Like I think there's parts where it's almost like they tell you too much information, and other parts where they don't tell you enough. The characters weren't as deep as I'd like them to be. But like at the center of it, you do have this really great chemistry between two of our most affable actors in Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. And whenever it's sort of them going through the ups and downs of their relationship, I think they're compelling together. And you kind of can't help but fall in love with and root for them as a couple. So like, while I don't think this is necessarily the most innovative or super memorable film I've seen, I just still think it's pretty emotionally affecting. Like it got a tear or two out of me, and especially if you're a fan of these actors, I think it's worth your while.
There's a speech that she gives towards the latter half of the film about being a mom, and that was the one where I was like, damn, get back in there, tear. She was very good in this movie, so I'm recommending it. And for those who were a little worried, the horse does make a cameo.
It's there.
You do see it. Some people said it was cut off. It's not cut. You see it. Maybe it was the cousin of the horse, because I guess it wasn't the one they were on.
Yeah, it wasn't the same exact angle that the image that was going viral, but it's the same horse.
Not. Yeah. So We Live in Time. I would give it the recommendation as well, but I got some extra ones here, so I'm putting it up right there. Check that one out as it comes out this week. There was a screening for this tonight, but I've got it in Dolby on Thursday, Piece by Piece, the newest documentary about Pharrell. You talked about it. Let the people know whether they should see it.
I'm making this one of my picks for the week. So
there you go.
Yeah. I thought it was delightful. I kind of was prepared to be really cynical and feel like, oh, they're doing this Lego stuff just like they're jingling their keys in front of you like we're little babies, but they
came out with the whole collection. on his lanyard.
I think they actually do some really fun stuff with the Lego in terms of being able to animate elements of music that are not visual, whether that's like sound waves or like they do this thing where Pharrell makes a beat and then it's this like this assemblage of Lego pieces on the table, just kind of like pulsing. So it just as a way of making certain ideas visual, I thought it was pretty creative. And it's also just like a story that touches on so many elements of pop culture that are so vital to, I think, my upbringing and probably yours as well, as people who are consumers and appreciators of popular music, especially hip hop music. So I had fun with this, enough fun that I'm going to go see it again in theaters.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I know you said you got a busy weekend though, so I'm curious how you're gonna fit that in, because I know you're watching the double header of Terrifier 2 and 3,
Yeah.
the whopping, what is it, 3-4 hour thing.
Right. I never saw Terrifier 2, so I have to subject myself to
You saw
3
one?
plus hours. No, I did not. I never seen
Oh, I was
any
about to say,
Terrifier.
bro. Well,
Yeah.
hey, what better weekend than this October weekend to catch Terrifier
Really?
1, 2,
Yeah.
and the almost 2-hour 3. You're not even gonna
I
blink an
might
eye at this,
pass.
are you?
No, I
You just pass it.
look, you can either get me to see Terrifier 3 or Smile 2, but I won't see
Shut
both.
up, bro. This man said, no, you know what? Actually, Yom Kippur's tomorrow. I cannot. I will be famished.
Shana Tova.
Come on, bro. Terrifier 3. I got my tickets for it. My tocayo, bro, his name's Art. We share the same name. I'm being represented on screen. I get it. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's considered one of the most I respect that it's one of the biggest independent films out there. I've seen a lot of people call this an industry plant. It is not an industry plant, bro. Like, it's disgusting. It's everything possible, but they somehow were able to create a franchise that they themselves distribute to AMC. I think that's cool. What's that quote that they said for Joker? They played the system. Was the Beyond Fest? We're gonna start making that a template. They found a way to get in there, and I don't think they will have a popcorn bucket, but they have been promoting this since last year. It's finally coming out. The screening on that is sold out, bro. So I'll be reporting back for that. Terrifier 3.
It's certainly a really cool Hollywood business story, and I'm not like opposed to this film's success. I think it's just sort of like trading in a style of movie that I find deeply unpleasant. But you know,
your alley, bro. I don't know how else to
yeah,
put it to you. Like everything
some
you
people
hate.
love that stuff. Clearly,
it is vile, bro. Another one that may not be as vile, but I can't wait to cover it to get hit with a copyright strike, is the newest film coming to Max. And I don't think it's HBO. I think it's just Max, if I'm not mistaken. Caddo Lake. It is a mystery thriller that is produced by M. Night Shyamalan. I'm in it for my boy Dylan O'Brien, bro. I want to see what happens in this one. I know very little other than it's supposed to be this mystery about a girl that vanishes. So, Caddo Lake, that'll be the streaming release. We're not getting 7 this week, just the one, Caddo Lake. But we do have a couple of other ones like Outer Banks. I will be catching up on that. I don't think you've seen it, but
no.
Big Netflix
Season
show.
4 already?
Season 4, bro. And I think they're splitting it. Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft is going to be coming out. So, I don't know. Looks interesting. Apple TV, disclaimer. Newest miniseries from Alfonso Cuarón. This premiered at TIFF. They had like 1 or 2 episodes. I'm intrigued. I think, is this the first series he's done?
I believe so. And it's not just, Alfonso, it's Cate Blanchett starring in this one as well. So that's quite notable, given that they're not people who are very often seen on the small screen. That being said, I kind of think I'd rather see them do a movie together than a miniseries.
Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll be tapping in for this one, give you the pilot preview next week. The biggest one, though, one of my biggest comfort shows, Abbott Elementary, coming back and leading up for what was finally announced as their big crossover episode. I'm sure you heard. What are your thoughts out of all the Philadelphia shows it could have been?
I think that sometimes we shouldn't listen to the internet.
Okay.
Like, I think that, just because they're both Philly shows doesn't mean they have to touch each other. They don't have to cross streams. And I love both these shows, but their style of humor could not be more different from one another. I don't know. I just think, like, ultimately either it's going to be a version of It's Always Sunny that feels muted, or a version of Abbott Elementary that feels very strange.
I agree with some of the people asking. I thought the It's Always Sunny crew aren't even allowed near a school. So how is this going to happen?
I know, right? Like, Charlie should be nowhere near any elementary.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Oh, we'll see. I just know they're going to get mopped up by the janitor, but that is coming out this week.
They're all funny enough that I'm sure it's going to make me laugh. I just
they're
think
going to find
have to listen to every idea that gets popular on the internet.
But that'll be out there, and I think the crossover is for Halloween, so there's still a couple weeks before that one. But let's get into our picks for the week. For my 3 picks, I'm starting out with 3 picks. Really quick shout-outs over here for the premiere streaming editions of Dìdi over on Peacock. Everyone's got Peacock, right? Well, if you do, you finally got a really good movie. Dìdi's going to be premiering there. Evil Does Not Exist, getting a streaming premiere over on Criterion. Damn. Does this one take its time? But that ending is killer, bro. It is such a banger of an ending. And then the final one that I have as a streaming premiere was one that we caught at TIFF 2 years ago. Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. This is coming out on movies. So I got a Peacock exclusive for you. That's really funny. I've got an Evil Does Not Exist Criterion exclusive for you. That's definitely not funny. And one that's a mixture of both. That's funny and also dramatic with Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person on movie. But if you want to leave the house, you want to go out into theaters, I just got back from seeing this one that is limited here in Chicago and getting a full release this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. What better way to see Saturday night than on a Saturday night? That was good. Obviously, I was very anticipating this movie. I was like, yo, this is a movie that's up my alley.
You're hyped.
5 out of 5. I'm a big fan of movies like Living in Oblivion, these films where it's just someone trying to get through the day, get the job done. Everything's falling apart, especially behind the scenes set movies. And this delivers on a lot of those aspects. I think the actors are really good in this. Our lead over here in Gabriel, my man is working overtime. He does nothing wrong. Everyone else around him, I think, is doing really good jobs, even though I feel some of them are like vignettes that they're way too sparse. And I'm like, I feel like I'm just getting a caricature of who this person is supposed to be. And it could be deeper. Some people like our Emmy Award winning Lamorne Morris. I don't know what they were doing with his character. I was like, what's going on here, bro? I wanted to see more. This doesn't feel like something that he'd be worried about that night. And that's where it does feel a little bit more like, nah, y'all were worried about like all these things for a week. But for the movie, it had to be 90 minutes. Exactly. There are moments where they laugh at stuff, right? Someone says this line about like, oh, they said God's love is blind. And they do this like snort laugh. Then later on, someone will perform something and they're ha, 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 ha. Nah, someone who laughs at one type of joke would not be ha-haing at another type of joke. And there's a scene where they talk about not needing an applause sign. It definitely felt like they had an applause sign for the cast sometimes. Hey, it's a little wonky at points. Maybe that serves a story a little bit. But I look, I still enjoyed it. I thought it was very fun. It's got that, we use Uncut Gems a lot. But again, I go way back to Living in Oblivion. It's got that very anxious energy to it as they're leading up to the show. I would still recommend it, especially in the theater. Yeah. I thought the sound design was good. It had a lot of laugh out loud moments for me. Dylan O'Brien, I don't know who Dan Aykroyd paid. Good for him. Rachel Sennett, good. Cooper Hoffman, very good. But it was, bro, who played?
There you go.
Bro.
Yeah. It's an incredible Chevy Chase. It goes beyond impression, just an incredible embodiment of Chevy Chase by Corey Michael Smith.
Easily. And I'm seeing right now he was from May December, bro.
Yeah.
Of course.
He's Julianne Moore's son.
Incredible part there.
Yeah.
This man was not playing around, dude. Consider me a fan. Incredible stuff from him. And then some side ones over here. Nicholas Braun, fantastic also. Just so funny seeing him play both characters.
Yeah, the dual
Absolutely
role
incredible stuff. It worked incredibly well.
You can see how like someone who doesn't necessarily know him wouldn't even know that he's playing both parts, right?
Through and through. Yeah, it's a fun fact, just in the background. And the last person I'm going to give a shout out over here. Pitch Perfect. No notes.
Yeah.
I don't even want to ruin the scene that he has. He's got one specific trip in this movie where he's got to go search for something. Man, I thought he was incredible. No hard feelings. He is excellent here, just as a little side character. But I just thought overall the movie, while rough around the edges for a movie that's supposed to be rough around the edges, it still very much worked for me. I know some people may not have been the biggest of fans, but I would still give it the recommendation to see with a packed crowd. Saturday night.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're talking about things that we mostly echoed when we were talking about this after TIFF, and that there's some weird structure to it in that the flow sometimes feels a little bit off,
Yeah.
and some of that comes from how it's clearly heightened to pack everything into this 90-minute period before the first episode happened, even though there's no way that it actually went down quite like that.
Right?
It's
It's like a
but
trailer shot that they needed.
right, exactly. But it's entertaining. Like, I'm not
Hell
bored.
yeah.
I enjoyed myself. Like you said, all the performances are good. There's some aspects where I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't like the best movie, but this is still a lot of fun to be sitting down watching.
Yeah. I look forward to watching it again when it's at home, or
Same.
maybe even if I got some free time. I'm glad that this will be out while I'm out watching movies. If I have a buffer time and I could just check
Right.
into something, hey, why not? And then my final pick is At Home, Casa Bonita, Mi Amor. I did not even know this thing came out, bro. I had told you we had gotten a screening for it. It expired on us. And then Alina, she's at her mom's house, comes back and she goes, oh, yeah, it's out on Paramount. I'm like, what? So I had to dig through Paramount. It is the, what's his name? Trey Parker, Matt Stone documentary about the restaurant. We need to go here, dude. The restaurant that they opened, that they bought after it closed for COVID, and ended up investing what they thought was going to be 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a whole bit about the budget just running up because this place is incredible, bro. Besides the food looking like trash, it's like an adult, not really even adult.
Well, what do
like
they call it? It's like
Disneyland.
the Disneyland of Mexican restaurants is what.
Yeah. It's so big in there. Like,
Yeah.
And it's all an indoor place. It's like a rainforest cafe if it had like caverns and stuff, and you could just like walk around and I think the Disneyland aspect comes from like there's characters, people play, roles and stuff. Hilarious stuff. Just following these guys. There's that bit that I was telling you earlier where he does this one tarnation. It's dumb the first time. It's idiotic the 7th time. I was dying by the 14th time. So give this one a watch if you're interested. And yeah, when we return to Sundance, when we do our drive through Denver, we are stopping here, bro. We are stopping here doing an all you can eat.
100%.
I guess the food is better. So there's that.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking that one out. My first pick for the week, I mentioned it briefly before, but I'm going piece by piece. There's a good chance that Pharrell, even though he's not necessarily like my favorite musician or my favorite hip hop producer, this dude has like had his fingers in maybe more songs that I think are great than any other person alive. Yeah, exactly. That 4-beat intro, like it's just amazing. The breadth of his career, and he's got an interesting story. The film has lots of contributions from really iconic people in it as well, and it's just pretty visually creative. So, it's a fun take on the music biodoc. I'd recommend Piece by Piece at only 90 minutes. It just flies by. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
The movie I'm most hoping to try and find time for, because I'm really curious about it this weekend, is the new film from Ali Abbasi, The Apprentice. Ali Abbasi, of course, made films like Border and Holy Spider, which we've talked about plenty on Intercut. This one is the story of a young Donald Trump, played by Sebastian Stan. He's also accompanied by Jeremy Strong, who's playing the role of Roy Cohn, and Maria Bakalova, who's playing Ivana Trump. It got some interesting responses out of Cannes, where it premiered earlier this year. And Abbasi is just a pretty fascinating filmmaker. None of his films are subtle in what they are trying to tell you about society. So I'm sure there's going to be a strong message delivered in this movie, and I'm hoping that it's one that I find interesting as well. A bunch of actors that I like, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I like The Apprentice. And then my last pick for the week, as long as we're in the political sphere, I like a lot of people found myself drifting towards the iconic Julia Louis-Dreyfus show Veep in the wake of the Kamala Harris nomination. And it is just so funny the ways in which this show is a little bit prescient, whether it's like the I got to the point in one season where she selects a running mate and that running mate starts to get more popular than her, like we had with our own like Tim Walls moment. I just think this show is just so sharply funny and hilariously written, whether it's like the incredibly creative insults they come up with each other or just the really funny way in which the plot always ends up circling back on itself. It's just like one of the funniest shows we've had, and I'm appreciating it all the more now given the ways in which it feels like it's predicted some things. So not a very easy show to just throw on in the background too, because like it's not super plot heavy and a lot of the jokes. Sorry?
It's like a walk and talk. Most of the jokes is just them bickering at her ears.
Yeah, walk and talks or like arguments in different back rooms and stuff. And the context of the scene is always really apparent. But there's so many just like throwaway jokes and lines that you don't even really need to be knowing exactly what's going on in order to appreciate. So I find this one to be a really fun hang, very funny show. If you have never caught up with it, there's no better time than right now. So many good people on it too. You know, our boy Sam Richardson becomes a big part of the show starting in like seasons 4 and 5, and it's so funny to watch the show in real time realize how funny he is.
That's crazy. And he's about to get Detroiters on Netflix too, so good on him, bro. And it's got your preferred Matt Walsh, Timothy Simons, good
from
stuff.
Nobody Wants This.
Do you have a preferred? Like, is she the standout, or is there a side character that just like?
I mean, Julia is incredible in it, and I love Tony Hale's work as Buster on Arrested Development, and I kind of thought there would never be a character that supersedes that, but he is so good as Gary in this show.
Yeah,
just like
from what I've seen, it's him.
Yeah, he's just like it is such a full character, and it's so funny how he embodies it, just even for the physicality of it, how he holds himself in proximity to her, trying to be as close to her as possible. He is so hysterical on the show.
You finished Seinfeld? You got through Seinfeld or a chunk of it?
Yeah.
She's the funniest one, no? Or is it George? I know it's George, but like, I don't know what happened with my algorithm. Her clips keep popping out on YouTube and Twitter. There was one where she thought she was dating a black guy, but she wasn't sure. Do you know that clip, bro?
Yes,
dude.
Yes, I do.
The ending to that bit is so funny.
Yeah.
I'm like,
here's what I'd say about Seinfeld and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think that they wrote the funniest stuff for George to do, but she's the one who elevated her comedy the most. Like, she's so hilarious.
Yes.
And makes things that could be non-jokes hysterical all the time on that show.
I think you're right, because George is like the same bit over and over and over again. The nuances she has, like, it's just in that clip alone, I was like, yo, you were firing all cylinders on the show, because I always felt like Jerry is always Jerry, and the other guy is always like, I don't know, just doing the same stuff. There's a reason why she's still around. There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's going to be in Thunderbolts coming out very soon as well.
Well, you know what's crazy is that there's a show that she was on for like 5 or 6 seasons, which she won an Emmy for and was nominated 4 other times. The New Adventures of Old Christine. And that's the third best show she was on.
That's okay. She's sick. She's nasty. She kind of like Edie Falco, right? Where it's just like, oh, Nurse Jackie's over there. Legends. All right. I will be catching up on Veep for sure. I'll be catching up on Veep, running it back over
it's
here.
So easy to throw on and enjoy. It's great.
HBO, right?
HBO Max.
HBO. Dìdi over on Peacock. Evil Does Not Exist over on Criterion. Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. Everyone say it with me. Over on Mubi. But in theaters, my picks are Saturday night. Watch it with a packed crowd if the trailer interests you. If not, it's probably not going to be up your alley. But I thought it was funny. I thought it had some interesting characters. Makes me want to go rewatch the first episode as well. Saturday night out in theaters and at home. Casa, Bonita, Mi Amor. I want to say a Tribeca selection about Matt Stone, Trey Parker from South Park buying their restaurant that they used to go to as kids.
Yeah.
You've got
I got Piece by Piece, which is out in theaters. The
Dolby
Apprentice,
tickets.
which is in limited release, so check that the showtimes line up for you. I'm not so sure they do for me. But if you can't make it to theaters, sit back, relax, and laugh your ass off at Veep.
Fire. That is all for this week's show. A big shout out to the Intercuties who listen live and everybody else who joined in for the live chat. Big shout out to Josh asking questions. Shout out Jeremy who was checking up on the mic as well. Mark, all the good people leaving us comments throughout. Josh had mentioned a thing about Selena Gomez. I saw you had started towards the end there.
Oh, yeah.
Good thumbs up.
Selena Gomez in Emilia Perez. You know, she's all right in it. I don't think she necessarily should be nominated for an Oscar or anything like that. But I don't know. I, as a person who normally does enjoy Selena Gomez, I enjoyed seeing her try this out. But I also was constantly aware that it was Selena Gomez.
You prefer in only murders?
Only Murders in the Building? Yeah, a little bit.
All right, fair. Also, big shout out Gustav, Blaze. Who else do we got? Luna, Ricky, everybody else who was over on the chat. Thank you. A big shout out to all you guys. You can find more from me over at LME Movies. Zach, where can they find more from you?
You can find more from me at Zshevich or anywhere you find videos at Multiplex Show.
A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. And like Zach said, we're trying to get to that 250. That 250 puts us in that marker so that we can, I don't know, go live on Saturday nights, get screeners, all that good stuff. You can catch the live video here on youtube.com every week where we go through our weekend must-watch picks. That's all the movies, TV. We're giving you all those selections from New York, Chicago, all that good stuff before you even know what's on the horizon for the Oscars and everything else. A big shout out to all the Intercuties who listen live, all of the patrons, all of the iTunes listeners who, again, leave us that 5-star review. You had mentioned some of the reviews that we got, but what do we chart? Because it's all about the numbers.
Yeah, it's all about those charts, and we had charted in a bunch of different countries. So shout out to our listeners in the Czech Republic, Czechia. Chartable's got to update that. That's Czechia, man. United Arab Emirates, Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore, Poland, Belgium, South Africa, Switzerland, Netherlands, Ireland, Norway, Spain, Germany, Australia, Canada, Great Britain, and right here in the United States of America. You know, I actually just looked this up this weekend. Czechia, because I grew up knowing it as Czech Republic. It didn't become official until 2016. A country got a whole new name in 2016. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Yeah.
I still think it's weird what happened in Russia in the 90s. I was like, bro, we were like it was that big, bro. Like things changed, bro. 2016, really. So it's now what?
Yeah.
Chechnya?
Czechia.
Czechia? Yeah. As opposed to what was it?
Czech Republic.
So Czech Republic non-existent.
I mean, it's the same place. It's just it's a cleaner name. You know, they dropped the. You don't need to put a whole republic at the end of it. Just Czechia. Oh, that's easier.
Hey, we're the United States of America, bro. So we're up our. I see what they were going for. Yeah. But I respect the rebrand and respect having us out there on the charts. Thank you for that. Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow all the socials or over on Intercut Pod. And until next time, keep watching movies and we'll send you the Intercut Lego set.
Some assembly required.